Chapter 1412. 1412 Chapter 1412 Tempering the body. Through the lightning tribulation, the more heaven-defying a person was, the more powerful the heavenly tribulation would be. An innate spirit body was born against the natural order, and was not an ordinary body. Therefore, it was the most terrifying when undergoing tribulation. However, the area of Lu Ming's tribulation cloud had already exceeded that of an ordinary connate spirit body. Very soon, Lu Ming's tribulation cloud's range had reached 200 miles. Thick dark clouds filled the air above their heads, covering the sky and the sun. This kind of aura made people feel that a great disaster was coming. In the dark clouds, bolts of lightning were swimming. Some of them were as large as mountains, and were extremely huge. In front of them, Lu Ming seemed very small. In the distance, more and more people were alarmed by the tribulation clouds. In the crowd, there was a person who looked at Lu Ming under the tribulation cloud with a cold gaze. He was Lu Yen of the Heavenly God sect. Senior brother Lu Yen, is this the person you were talking about? Beside Lu Yen, a few disciples of the Heavenly God sect asked. That's right, it's this person. So he's here to pass the tribulation and become a sovereign. Then let his beautiful dream come true. Lu Yen coldly said. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yen, are you planning to kill him while he is undergoing his tribulation? It's too dangerous. A disciple of the Heavenly God sect said with a grave expression. If he was dragged into the other party's tribulation, he would also suffer. It doesn't matter. I've just become an emperor, and I've also gone through a major tribulation. A tribulation can't do anything to me. Besides, I still have a tribulation transcending heavenly treasure with me. I'll kill him when he's going through the tribulation, and make his dream of becoming an emperor vanish. Lu Yen said. That's right. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yen has already transcended the innate spirit body tribulation, which is an extremely terrifying heavenly tribulation. Coupled with the tribulation transcending heavenly treasure, there's indeed no harm in it. This brat is dead for sure. A few of the Heavenly God sect's disciples began to flatter him. Lu Yan's eyes flashed with ferocity. Boom, boom, boom. The sky and earth rumbled. More and more lightning appeared in the dark clouds, constantly cutting through the sky and illuminating the world. Selah. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning streaked across the void and struck down on Lu Ming. The heavenly tribulation had begun. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and stood still, allowing the lightning to strike him. Boom! The lightning landed on Lu Ming's body, causing his body to go numb. A numbing sensation spread throughout his body. It feels good, let's do it again. Lu Ming revealed a look of anticipation. He wanted to use lightning to form a spirit body. Boom! 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 Following that, a bolt of lightning struck down from the sky one after another, striking towards Lu Ming. Some of the lightning bolts were as thick as mountains, and completely drowned Lu Ming. The people around them watched quietly. They all knew that the heavenly tribulation wasn't very strong at the beginning, but it would get stronger and more terrifying later on. Endless lightning drowned Lu Ming. He did not know how many lightning bolts had struck down. It feels so good. Lu Ming did not use the early stage of the chaos domain. He did not even use his essential core to resist. He only used his physical body to resist the lightning tribulation. As the lightning struck down, Lu Ming's body felt numb and itchy. His spirit body continued to strengthen and condense under the tempering of the lightning tribulation. After a few minutes, the lightning in the sky suddenly stopped and did not strike down. However, this did not mean that it was over. Everyone knew that the truly powerful and terrifying lightning was about to descend. The aura in the sky became even more oppressive, and dark clouds rolled as if they were brewing. After a long while, Selah, another bolt of lightning struck down. However, the lightning this time was very different from the previous ones. This time, the color of the lightning was deeper, and it looked more terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of lightning drowned Lu Ming. From the outside, Lu Ming's figure could not be seen at all. All they could see was a ball of white light. This kind of lightning was very dangerous for geniuses who were breaking through to the martial emperor realm. They had to do their best to resist it, and there was a risk of death if they were not careful. An ordinary person could become an emperor, After passing this level of lightning tribulation, this kid's combat strength is very strong. There's still one more level of tribulation lightning, the purple flame tribulation lightning. That's the time for me to attack. In the crowd, Lu Yan's mind was spinning with thoughts, but he did not start attacking. This time, Lu Ming did not resist. He simply blocked it with his spirit body, and circulated the dragon god combat body, to condense his physical body. This power is more like it. The one just now is too weak. Lu Ming thought to himself, let the lightning tribulation strike me. If this was heard by others, they would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. To others it was a fatal threat. However, to Lu Ming, it was just an ordinary threat. He did not need to resist at all. He could block it with his body. After a while, the wave of lightning tribulation ended. Boom, boom, boom. Dark clouds covered the sky and lightning flashed. A purple light spread out. As expected, there's more. The next wave is the purple fire lightning tribulation. This guy is so strong. He's going to undergo 3 lightning tribulations. It's said that an innate spirit body needs to go through 4 lightning tribulations. I wonder if this guy will have 4 lightning tribulations. I don't know. This guy's dark clouds cover 200 miles, which is even larger than the dark clouds of the innate spirit body. There should be 4 layers, right? Discussions could be heard all around. This time, the tribulation clouds took even longer to brew. Half an hour passed. Boom. A bolt of purple lightning streaked across the sky and struck Lu Ming. The lightning looked purple, because it was covered with a layer of purple fire. It was a tribulation fire, which was as powerful as the lightning tribulation. The power of the two combined was even more shocking. Boom! The lightning struck Lu Ming's body. His body trembled slightly, and he blocked the lightning. The lightning tribulation disappeared, but a layer of purple flames burned on Lu Ming's body. This was the terrifying power of the tribulation fire. The thunder tribulation could be extinguished, but the tribulation fire was difficult to extinguish. It would stick to the body of the person undergoing the tribulation until the person was burned to ashes. Lu Ming's body lit up with vital essence and began to resist the invasion of the tribulation fire. Boom! Boom! Following that, bolts of purple lightning tribulation struck down continuously and drowned Lu Ming. At that moment, a figure dashed towards the place where Lu Ming was undergoing his tribulation like a bolt of lightning. Many people were shocked. Who is that? What do you want to do? That's Lu Yen from the Heavenly God sect. He's going to charge into the other party's tribulation transcendence. Flowing Flame's breakthrough caused many people to be shocked. Buzz! Flowing Flame directly charged into the tribulation cloud's area of effect. Boom! As soon as he charged in, a bolt of purple lightning struck towards Lu Yen. However, Lu Yen casually waved his hand, and the purple lightning was destroyed. He had just gone through a lightning tribulation, so this purple flame lightning tribulation couldn't do anything to him. Boom! Boom! Immediately after, even more purple lightning bolts struck toward Lu Yen. A layer of terrifying flames appeared on Lu Yan's body to block the lightning. He was breaking through the lightning tribulation and approaching Lu Ming. Flowing Flame! Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Lu Yan actually wanted to kill him while he was undergoing his tribulation. Chapter 1413. 1413 Chapter 1413 Depress Lu Yen, then come. Lu Ming sneered. Boom! 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 The purple lightning tribulation was getting more and more terrifying. Lightning bolts as thick as mountains kept striking down on the two of them. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming exploded. He punched out continuously with both fists. Streams of fist force rushed into the sky and destroyed the purple fire lightning tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to be enraged by Lu Ming's outburst and the rush of the flowing flames. They churned violently, and more purple flame lightning tribulation fell. So many lightning tribulations? But you can't stop me. Lu Yen shouted coldly. He swung his palm, and a blade light burst out, breaking the lightning tribulation one by one. He was rapidly approaching Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure moved, and he retreated rapidly, pulling apart the distance between him and Lu Yen. You can't escape. The flowing flame continued to break through the lightning and chased after Lu Ming. The tribulation cloud covered a radius of 200 miles. Lu Ming was in the center of the tribulation cloud. Lu Yan was only 80 to 90 miles away from Lu Ming. However, this distance was difficult to cross due to the lightning tribulation. As long as Lu Yan came close, Lu Ming would retreat. Damn it! You're courting death. Lu Yan shouted angrily as his aura exploded. The aura of a martial royal realm expert filled the air, and flames covered his body. His innate flame spiritual body had broken through the martial royal realm and completed a transformation. It had become even more terrifying, reaching the level of a low-grade spiritual body. The flames condensed into a long blade, and with a slash, it destroyed the lightning tribulation. His speed increased. However, the purple lightning tribulation suddenly disappeared. However, the tribulation cloud seemed to be really angry. This time it didn't even prepare. In the sky, dense lightning bolts struck down. This time the lightning had 4 colors. There were 4 different colors of lightning, and the surface of each lightning was covered with different things. Some were covered in flames, some were covered in wind, some were covered in water, and some were golden in color. The 4th lightning punishment had arrived. This lightning tribulation was several times more terrifying than the pure purple flame lightning tribulation. This kind of lightning tribulation was the terrifying lightning tribulation that an innate spirit body had to face. Damn it! The 4th lightning punishment is coming so quickly. Lu Yan roared in his heart. The time it took for the 3rd and 4th lightning punishment to pass was faster than he had expected. The 4th lightning punishment was something that even he had to be careful about. A tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. With a thought, a purple bead flew out and hovered above Lu Yan's head, emitting a light barrier that enveloped Lu Yan. And NBSB the tribulation lightning struck the purple light barrier, causing it to shake violently, but it was still blocked. What a powerful tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. It can even block the 4th heavenly tribulation. In the distance, many people revealed envious expressions. An ordinary tribulation transcending heavenly treasure would be considered pretty good if it could withstand the 2nd lightning tribulation. However, Lu Yan's tribulation transcending heavenly treasure was actually able to withstand the 4th lightning tribulation. Its power was astonishing, and it was definitely a top-tier tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. Flowing Flame's speed increased greatly, and he approached Lu Ming rapidly. Buzz! Then he rapidly retreated. Kill, die! Lu Yan bellowed as he swung his palm down. A vast flaming saber light slashed toward Lu Ming. But as soon as the blade light appeared, it was dispersed by the lightning tribulation. Damn it! I have to get close to that guy to kill him. A cold glint flashed in Lu Yan's eyes. He broke through the lightning tribulation and approached Lu Ming at top speed. However, Lu Ming used the wind element technique and retreated at top speed, maintaining a distance of several dozen miles from Lu Yan. What's wrong with this guy? How can he be so fast in the face of the 4th lightning tribulation? After chasing for a while, the distance between the two was still unable to be closed, causing Lu Yan to become a little anxious. He could not kill Lu Ming if he did not pull him closer. Of course, he did not know that the 4th wave of lightning punishment was a fatal threat to others. However, to Lu Ming it was just fine. He did not have to go all out to resist it. The two of them, one chasing and one escaping, circled around in this area. Damn it, brat, I'll spare your life today. After chasing for a while, seeing that he could not catch up to Lu Ming, Lu Yan wanted to retreat. You can't come and go as you please. Accompany me to continue the tribulation. Lu Ming sneered. As soon as Lu Yan retreated, Lu Ming advanced and closed the distance between him and Lu Yan, allowing the tribulation cloud to envelop Lu Yan. You're looking for death. Lu Yan flew into a rage and stopped retreating. He wanted to rush forward and kill Lu Ming. But as soon as he advanced, Lu Ming retreated, and as soon as he retreated, Lu Ming advanced. This infuriated Lu Yan, and he was unable to get away. This stalemate continued for a while before the lightning tribulation suddenly disappeared. The heavenly tribulation has passed. This guy needs to stabilize his realm. Let's see how you can catch me. The disappearance of the heavenly tribulation caused Lu Yan to be overjoyed. With the heavenly tribulation gone, He could easily escape and find an opportunity to kill Lu Ming. However, the next moment, Lu Yan's expression changed drastically. That was because the tribulation clouds in the sky had not dissipated at all. Instead, they had become even thicker. The tribulation cloud that had originally covered a radius of 200 li suddenly expanded to cover a radius of 300 li. The oppressive pressure it gave off made it difficult for Lu Yan to breathe. How is that possible? Could this be the fifth lightning tribulation? Lu Yan roared, revealing a look of fear. Run, run, run. Lu Yan almost wanted to cry. He turned around and ran, trying to escape the range of the lightning tribulation. Gah! At this moment, a screech resounded through the sky as a huge goshawk descended from the sky at an incredible speed. In an instant, it had arrived above Lu Yan's head and was swooping down towards him. Fifth heavenly tribulation, thunder tribulation transformation. Lu Yan roared in horror, his face filled with disbelief. Lu Ming was still going through the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, it was the legendary fifth heavenly tribulation, the thunder tribulation manifestation. An ordinary innate spirit body would only have 4 lightning punishments when they went through the martial royal ordeal. Unless it was some extremely abnormal guy, there would be a 5th lightning punishment. Bang! The heavenly tribulation transcending treasure, the goshawk formed by the lightning tribulation, crashed into Lu Yan's heavenly tribulation transcending treasure, and the light screen formed by the heavenly tribulation transcending treasure trembled violently, almost collapsing. Run! Lu Yan's only thought right now was to escape, the further the better. However, Lu Ming would not let him have his way. He was rapidly approaching him. The lightning tribulation is taking form? Lu Ming's lips curled into a faint smile. This wasn't the first time he had encountered such a lightning tribulation. It had appeared when he was undergoing the spiritual god tribulation. Roar! Roar! 2 loud roars were heard as the 2 giant tigers formed by the lightning tribulation pounced toward Lu Ming. Prison suppressing heaven art. Lu Ming threw 2 punches, and the 2 giant tigers were sent flying. On the other side, 2 more lightning tribulation goshawks appeared, and a total of 3 of them pounced toward Lu Yan. Bang! Bang! The light screen formed by the flowing flame tribulation transcending heavenly treasure finally couldn't hold on any longer and exploded. The bead also exploded. The heavenly tribulation transcending treasure exploded, and a few goshawks pounced toward Lu Yan. Get lost! Lu Yan roared. His domain covered his entire body, and he charged toward the 3 goshawks. However, he had already passed the martial royal ordeal and entered the martial royal realm. Now that he was enveloped by the clouds of ordeal, the power of the lightning tribulation that struck him was greater than that of Lu Ming. It was his own ordeal. He had to face his own 5 great tribulations. Chapter 1414. 1414 Chapter 1414 Struck to death by lightning. However, he had only experienced the 4th stage of the martial emperor tribulation before. The power of the 5th stage had already exceeded his imagination. Boom! 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 Although flowing flame had sent the 3 thunder tribulation goshawks flying, he had also left a few bloody marks on his body. The power of the thunder tribulation was desperately drilling into his body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. But to his despair, more lightning tribulation creatures appeared in the sky. This time, it was 2 giant pythons and they pounced toward him. At the same time, the 3 goshawks also pounced towards Lu Yan. Now he could only protect himself. He had no strength to chase after Lu Ming. After a few explosions, Lu Yan's body was in tatters, his hair was disheveled, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Many wounds appeared on his body, making him look extremely ferocious. If it wasn't for the fact that his fire spiritual body was extremely powerful, and that it was a low-tier earth spiritual body, with extremely tenacious vitality, he would have been in danger. However, a few more living beings appeared in the sky and charged toward Lu Yan. In the end, a total of 9 lightning tribulation creatures surrounded Flowing Flame and began to fight. Flowing Flame used all of his strength to fight the 9 tribulation lightning creatures. Hold on, I must hold on. As long as I can survive this wave of lightning tribulation, I can escape. Not only that, I can also use the fifth wave of lightning tribulation to temper my spiritual body and make it stronger. Flowing Flame warned himself like this. He would use all of his strength to battle with the lightning tribulation creatures. Lu Ming was also facing the attacks of 6 lightning tribulation creatures, but he was much more relaxed than Lu Yan. The third bloodline was suspended in the air, and wisps of energy surged into Lu Ming's body. He activated his vital essence and used the prison-suppressing heavenly art to fight the 9 lightning tribulation creatures. Every time Lu Ming threw a punch, a lightning tribulation creature would be sent flying. At the same time, Lu Ming could also deliberately release some of the power of the lightning tribulation and let it surge into his body to temper his spirit body. It's not enough. This level of lightning tribulation is more or less enough to train my spirit body. However, it's still not enough to train my primal chaos domain to become a complete primal chaos domain. I need a stronger lightning tribulation, Lu Ming pondered in his heart. If other people knew Lu Ming's thoughts, they would probably be angered to death. Other people hoped that the power of the lightning tribulation would be as weak as possible. However, Lu Ming felt that the power of the lightning tribulation was not enough and wanted a stronger lightning tribulation. This was already the 5th lightning punishment. Die, let's go, Lu Ming shouted. A layer of chaotic color suddenly spread out from his body. The embryonic form of the chaos domain was activated, and Lu Ming's combat strength increased greatly. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming threw 9 punches in a row. The 9 living beings formed by the lightning bolts exploded and disappeared into wisps of lightning. The heavens! In the distance, the people who saw this scene were dumbfounded. All of a sudden, the 9 creatures formed by the lightning tribulation were scattered. This was too shocking. Didn't he see that on the other side, Lu Yan was trying his best to defend? He's done it. He's passed the Martial Emperor tribulation, the 5th lightning tribulation. What a monster. When he grows up, he'll be able to compete with the top monsters in the Azure continent. That's right. This man has such potential. He seems to be a disciple of the Dragon God Valley. Another monstrous figure has appeared in the Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming's performance caused many people to discuss. Some people's eyes flickered as they pondered about how to get rid of Lu Ming and eliminate this great enemy. And NBSB hoo-hoo. Lu Yan was panting heavily. Lu Ming had defeated 9 lightning creatures in one go. The 9 lightning creatures that had besieged Lu Yan had also disappeared. Lu Yan was in an extremely miserable state. He was covered in injuries, and even now, there were still lightning bolts running around his body, causing his aura to be extremely weak. But he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He had passed the lightning tribulation. However, Lu Yan suddenly felt that something was wrong. After the lightning tribulation, the tribulation clouds in the sky should have dissipated, right? Why were they still there? Furthermore, he had become stronger. Lu Yan's eyes widened. That's right, the tribulation cloud was rolling, as if there was a savage beast roaring inside. The tribulation cloud's coverage had expanded again, covering a radius of 400 miles. Endless lightning bolts swam in the tribulation clouds, and the terrifying aura made people who were watching from thousands of miles away gasp. The 6th lightning tribulation? No. Lu Yan roared hysterically. The 6th round of lightning tribulation? It's good that it's coming. Ha ha ha. Lu Ming burst out laughing. In the distance, the people who were watching widened their eyes in disbelief. It was actually the 6th round of thunder tribulation. There was still a 6th round of thunder tribulation. They had thought that Lu Ming had survived this ordeal, and it was over. However, he did not expect that Lu Ming's lightning tribulation would be beyond his imagination. There was actually a 6th lightning tribulation. The 6th lightning tribulation was a legendary lightning tribulation. It had not appeared in the Azure region for a long time. Escape, escape, escape. Lu Yan had gone completely mad, and he frantically tried to escape. However, whoosh! High up in the sky, a sword light slashed down towards Flowing Flame. Poochie! One of Lu Yan's arms was cut off, and the endless power of lightning turned the arm into ashes. The remaining power of lightning madly drilled into Lu Yan's wound, making it difficult for it to heal. Originally, with his fire spirit body, Even if he were to lose an arm, he would be able to regrow it in an instant. At most, it would only cost him some vital chi. But now, under the destructive power of lightning, it was impossible. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then 2 more weapons flew down from the sky, a saber and a spear. They were all made of lightning. The 6th heavenly tribulation, the lightning tribulation transforming into weapons. No! Lu Yen tried his best to block it, but the power of the 6th level was completely beyond the scope of his strength. The tribulation lightning war saber slashed down, breaking through Lu Yan's layers of defense. In the end, the lightning spear pierced through Lu Yan's forehead. Lu Yan let out a blood-curdling screech as his entire body exploded into flames and reappeared several kilometers away. At this moment, Lu Yan's face was deathly pale, and his aura was extremely weak. If he didn't have a low-tier earth spiritual body and a fire spiritual body, he would have died. However, even if he had managed to escape, the result was already set in stone. Buzz! In the sky, another combat sword slashed down. No! Lu Yan let out a long howl of unwillingness and took one last look at Lu Ming. He hoped to see Lu Ming die under the lightning tribulation. However, he was disappointed. Lu Ming was like an invincible god of war. His entire body was covered in chaotic light as he fought against the thunder weapon. With a punch, one of the thunder weapons was sent flying. The combat sword slashed through Lu Yan's forehead. This time, Lu Yan could no longer recover. The destructive power of the lightning had destroyed his body and soul. Why? That was Lu Yan's last thought. Why? He had wanted to take the opportunity to kill Lu Ming. Why did he die under the lightning tribulation in the end? How ironic was this? Chapter 1415. 1415 Chapter 1415 World, Refinement Tribulation. The people who were watching the battle from afar were also dumbfounded. Lu Yan had taken the tribulation transcending heavenly treasure with him, and had wanted to kill Lu Ming, while he was transcending his tribulation. However, in the end, Lu Ming was fine, but Lu Yan himself had been killed by the heavenly tribulation. Lu Yan is really unlucky to have met a monster. Someone sighed. Many people nodded in agreement. Lu Yan was just unlucky. If Lu Ming was just an ordinary martial artist, or even if he had an innate spirit body, he would probably be killed by flowing flame in the lightning tribulation. However, Lu Ming was not one of them. He was a monster who could attract the 6th heavens test. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yan is dead. We have to report this matter to the other senior apprentices. This person can't be left alive. Some of the heavenly god sect disciples at the scene conversed with each other before leaving the place. Clang! Clang! Lu Ming swung his fist and collided with the combat weapon formed by the lightning tribulation. The terrifying sound of the collision resounded through the sky. All sorts of weapons rained down from the sky, but no matter how many thunder weapons there were, they could not stop Lu Ming. Good, this kind of power is right. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. And NBSB he discovered that only the power of the 7th lightning tribulation could truly temper his primal chaos domain. Every time he punched out, there would be bolts of lightning around his body, helping him train his spirit body. A dragon's roar came from his body, as if a true dragon was about to awaken. Every time he clashed with the tribulation lightning weapon, it was a form of training for his primal chaos domain. He could feel that his chaos domain was transforming into a complete chaos domain. The 7th lightning punishment lasted for a long time, at least half an hour. Buzz! All of a sudden, Lu Ming's embryonic chaos realm contracted and retracted back into the spiritual god. But immediately after, it spread out again. However, this time, the chaos domain was no longer in its embryonic form, but a complete chaos domain. The primal chaos domain had finally broken through under the tempering of the 6th lightning tribulation, becoming a complete primal chaos domain. Boom! The complete chaos domain covered Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming threw a punch, and a blurry light of chaos burst out. The thunder tribulation weapons exploded with a bang. What a powerful force! Lu Ming was overjoyed. The complete chaos domain was too powerful. It was much, much stronger than the embryonic form of the chaos domain. At the same time, The other lightning tribulation warriors in the sky also scattered and disappeared without a trace. Have you transcended the heavenly tribulation? Many people had the same question in their minds. And NBSB hoo-hoo. At this moment, the tribulation clouds in the sky started to become smaller and started to gather towards the center. It seems that he has passed the thunder tribulation. This person is amazing. He has actually passed the 6th round of thunder tribulation. It's indeed amazing and terrifying. However, he's only at LV1 Martial Royal Realm now. He's far from those real Heaven's Pride experts. Unless he can grow up, it's useless no matter how strong he is if he dies halfway. The surrounding spectators began to discuss, thinking that Lu Ming had finally passed the heavenly tribulation. However, Lu Ming did not think so. He looked at the sky, his eyes shining. This was because he felt a powerful pressure that was several times stronger than the 6th heaven test. There's more, Lu Ming muttered. And NBSB hoo-hoo. The tribulation clouds within a radius of several hundred miles continued to gather, and finally turned into a tribulation cloud with a radius of only 30 miles. Crackling. In the tribulation cloud, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, shaking the sky. At this time, those surrounding spectators also discovered that the situation was not right. What's going on? The tribulation clouds didn't dissipate, but instead gathered together. That kind of fluctuation makes one's heart palpitate. It can't be. There's also the 7th heavens test. When those people guessed the final answer, they were all stunned. The heavenly tribulation was not over yet. There was still the 7th lightning tribulation. How is this possible? In the Azure region, it had been tens of thousands of years since anyone had passed the 7th lightning tribulation. There was a legend in the world that those who could pass the 7th heavenly tribulation had the potential to become a great emperor. Although it only had the potential, it was already shocking enough. In the vast Azure continent, ever since Emperor Tsong disappeared, no other great emperor was born. Each great emperor was a legend in the world. They ruled an area and moved unhindered across the world. This kind of person's lifespan was unknown, and he almost lived forever. The ultimate goal of all cultivators was to become a great emperor. Oh my god, there's such a monster in Dragon God Valley. I wonder if he can survive this tribulation. Just watch. Look, the World Refining Tribulation Bell. It's the World Refining Tribulation Bell. It's said that the World Refining Tribulation Bell only appears in the 7th lightning tribulation of the Martial Royal Tribulation. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared ahead. Above Lu Ming's head, the tribulation cloud rolled. Countless lightning bolts gathered to form a bell. It was a huge bell of tribulation lightning. Buzz! The bell trembled and descended from the sky, shrouding Lu Ming. Lu Ming could not avoid the bell of heavenly tribulation. He was enveloped by the world refinement tribulation bell. There was a terrifying energy within the bell that enveloped Lu Ming. It was a kind of refining power that could refine Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated his quintessential essence. The chaos domain covered his entire body to resist the refining force. However, this power of refinement was extremely mysterious. Although a portion of it was blocked by the chaos domain, a small portion of it still seeped into the chaos domain, and even into the spiritual god. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The spiritual god was the weakest and most crucial part of the human body. If the spiritual god was destroyed, it was equivalent to death. The refining power surged into his spiritual god, and a tearing pain instantly came from his spiritual god. The pain came from the soul, and it was tens or even hundreds of times stronger than the physical body. The power of refinement could even refine the soul. Block it! Lu Ming growled and gritted his teeth. He knew that if he couldn't hold on any longer, his spiritual god would break apart, and he would be completely refined by the world refining tribulation bell. Lu Ming had finally encountered a crisis since he transcended the tribulation. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the big bell, resisting with all his might. Outside, there were at least a few hundred people watching. They were curious if Lu Ming could survive the 7th lightning punishment. The 7th lightning tribulation, the world refinement tribulation bell. It's extremely terrifying and can refine everything. For tens of thousands of years, There have been geniuses in the Azure continent who faced such a tribulation, but they were all refined by the world refinement tribulation bell. That's right. It's too difficult to pass the seventh heaven test. Some people sighed. Time passed by slowly. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. In the blink of an eye, 10 hours had passed. Lu Ming was still persevering in the world refinement tribulation bell. At this moment, Lu Ming's appearance was extremely terrifying. All the muscles in his body seemed to have been corroded away, leaving only a skeleton. In fact, the power of refinement had already begun to refine the bone banner. Inside the spiritual god was dim and had no light. Lu Ming's soul was like a candle flame in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. Chapter 1416. 1416 Lu Ming becomes an emperor. However, Lu Ming did not give up. He was still resisting and persevering. Time passed by quickly. 10 hours passed, and another 10 hours passed. Lu Ming's entire skeleton armor was about to be refined. Only the chaos domain was still covering him. The soul fluctuations within the spiritual god were extremely weak, and as time passed, it became weaker and weaker. If Lu Ming's original soul force was equivalent to a moon, then his current soul force was equivalent to a firefly. Another 10 hours had passed. Lu Ming had been trapped in the world refining tribulation bell for 30 hours. At this time, Lu Ming's physical body had completely disappeared. He had been refined by the world refining tribulation bell. And NBSB hoo-hoo. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed and disappeared. The world refining tribulation bell below also disappeared with a bang. As for Lu Ming, there was no trace of him at all. There was no one in the air. He had vanished into thin air. The heavenly tribulation has passed, but where are the people? There's no one here. It seems that this person didn't pass the seventh heavenly tribulation and was refined by the world refining tribulation bell. It's a pity that a monster of his generation died under the heavenly tribulation. I just said that no matter how monstrous he is, he's useless if he doesn't grow up. Sighs could be heard from all around. Some people felt pity for Lu Ming, who was a monstrous talent of his generation. He had fallen under the heavenly tribulation. However, there were also people who mocked him and even gloated. Let's go. We've already wasted too much time searching for the treasures left behind by the great emperor. Some people spoke, and soon, not a single person was left in this area. The sky was completely silent, as if everything that had happened earlier was an illusion. 2 hours later, a spot of light suddenly lit up at the place where Lu Ming had just transcended the tribulation. At first, the spot of light was a little dim, but slowly, it became brighter and brighter. At first it was like a firefly, but slowly, it became like a candle. Then it became like the stars, the sun, and the moon. A terrifying suction force was born from the light spot. The original chi within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was frantically gathering towards the light spot. The light spot was like a black hole, devouring the original chi. And NBSB hoo-hoo. Endless origin chi gathered, and the outline of the light spot slowly appeared. It was a human form. It was the spiritual god, Lu Ming's spiritual god. Lu Ming did not die. He was not refined. Previously, the tribulation clouds and the world refinement tribulation bell disappeared not because Lu Ming was refined and died, but because Lu Ming had successfully passed the tribulation. At this moment, Lu Ming was recovering. The suction force grew stronger and stronger. The origin energy of heaven and earth in a radius of tens of thousands of miles was extremely dense. Slowly, the origin energy around Lu Ming's spirit god turned into liquid. The liquid squirmed and began to condense into a physical body. Lu Ming's physical body, roar. A dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. Between heaven and earth, the shadow of 9 dragons emerged and entered Lu Ming's body, disappearing. Half a day later, Lu Ming's body was completely in the air. At this time, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. With a thought, a set of clothes appeared and he put them on. I finally made it through. What a terrifying world refining tribulation bell. Lu Ming secretly sighed. Even Lu Ming had a narrow escape when he faced the refining corpse calamity bell. In the end, he managed to survive with his strong willpower. The world refining tribulation bell was said to be able to refine the world. Its refining power was too terrifying. Not only could it refine the physical body, but it could also refine the spirit and soul. However, there were great benefits to surviving. Lu Ming's current realm had completely surpassed the spiritual god realm. He had entered the martial emperor realm. He was currently in the early stage of the first-level martial monarch realm. Boom! Lu Ming got up and threw a punch. A loud rumble was heard in the sky. A fist force flew out and pierced a huge hole in a mountain, making it bright from the front and back. This was the Yuan continent, the great emperor's secret realm, not the divine ruins continents. Everything in the world was extremely frozen. Lu Ming could punch through a mountain with one punch, so how terrifying was his power. Moreover, it was just pure physical strength. There's actually chaos chi permeating my body. Lu Ming sensed it carefully, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. His muscles and bones seemed to be filled with chaotic chi. Although it was very faint, it was indeed chaotic chi. Lu Ming's spirit body had also reached the level of a low-grade earth spirit body. It was the same as what was recorded in the Dragon God combat body. However, due to the chaotic chi in his body, Lu Ming's spirit body was stronger than the average inferior earth spirit body. My soul has also been greatly improved and tempered. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the soul. He could feel that his soul was many times stronger than before, be it in terms of toughness, strength, or soul power. It was at least a few dozen times stronger. One was heaven and the other was earth. From what Lu Ming knew, it was extremely difficult to improve one's soul. It was more than 100 times more difficult than improving one's martial arts cultivation. The stronger the soul, the stronger the life force of the spiritual god. Even if the spiritual god was injured, it would not die easily. In short, Lu Ming had successfully broken through to the martial royal realm this time. He had improved greatly in all aspects, and his strength had skyrocketed. I wonder how strong I am now. Lu Ming was filled with anticipation. He did not dare to say anything else. But Lu Ming was confident that if he returned to the continent group of the divine ruins now, it would definitely be easy to kill the fourth-level martial emperors. Of course, the Yuan continent's emperor's combat strength far exceeded the divine ruins continent. Lu Ming had never fought him before, so it was not easy to measure. Also, Lu Ming stretched out his palm and pointed it at the void. Instantly, a terrifying devouring force erupted from Lu Ming's palm. The origin chi in the world gathered toward Lu Ming in a frenzy. The devouring power of the 9 dragons. According to the records of the Dragon God combat body, the Dragon God combat body, condensed from 9 dragons, retained the skill of devouring power. Moreover, Lu Ming's body could now burst out with devouring power at any time. It was more convenient than before. This way, my cultivation will be faster. Lu Ming smiled. With a thought, the devouring power disappeared. It's been more than 10 days since I entered the Great Emperor's secret realm. It's time to take action. I can't come to the Great Emperor's secret realm in vain. Lu Ming smiled, then stepped into the air and disappeared. The Great Emperor's secret realm was a plain. It was extremely vast, and there were vast mountains everywhere. Lu Ming's speed was very fast. He passed by the mountain below in a flash. There are buildings. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a building halfway up a mountain below him. He flew down. This was a palace. It looked very old, but it was intact. It was obvious that someone had lived here in the past. Lu Ming stepped in. The hall was quiet and empty. Lu Ming walked around, but found nothing. Even if there's something here, it would have been taken away by others. Lu Ming smiled and left the place. Chapter 1417 Heavenly Daomark. Next, Lu Ming saw a few places with buildings. However, he did not discover anything after entering. In some places, traces of fighting were found. It was clear that some people had arrived earlier and taken away the things inside the palace. The Great Emperor's secret realm naturally can't only have the Great Emperor living in it. It's said that there are many Saint Realm experts under the Great Emperor. As for the emperors, they're just servants. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Even if he couldn't get the treasures left by the Great Emperor, he would make a big profit, as long as he could get the treasures left by the Saint Realm. It was obvious that the buildings that Lu Ming had encountered were the residences of the great emperor's subordinates. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a cave abode in a valley. At a glance, it was a cave abode where warriors cultivated in seclusion. Lu Ming walked toward the cave abode. Whoosh! Just as Lu Ming was approaching the cave abode, a ray of sword light shot out from the cave abode and went straight for Lu Ming's throat. The sharpness of the sword was definitely that of an emperor. Clang! Lu Ming stretched out a finger and flicked it at the long sword. The long sword buzzed and trembled before it was sent flying. "It's you, Lu Ming!" A delicate voice was heard. Lu Ming focused his eyes and was stunned. "Young Lady Qiao." The person who attacked Lu Ming just now was Qiao Ying. "Lu Ming, I'm sorry. I thought it was someone else just now." Qiao Ying looked at Lu Ming apologetically. "It's fine. Where's your brother?" Lu Ming said. "My brother is cultivating in there. An expert left a heavenly Dao mark in this cave abode." Qiao Ying said. "Heavenly Dao engraving?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up. "That's right. You'll know when you come in," Qiao Ying said. Lu Ming nodded and entered the cave abode with Qiao Ying. The cave abode was very wide. On one of the walls of the cave abode, there was a mark that seemed to have been carved by someone with finger force. Lu Ming took a look and was deeply attracted. This mark was like the incarnation of the Great Tao. From this mark, one could comprehend the mysteries of the Great Tao. It was very difficult for a martial monarch to improve. First of all, he had to comprehend his domain. Domains were divided into 9 levels. It corresponded to the 9th level of the martial royal realm. One's cultivation could only be improved after the territory was improved. In order to increase his cultivation, he not only needed to refine his Zhen Yuan, but also his spirit body. Therefore, every step forward in the martial emperor realm was not easy. These great Tao marks were carved on the stone wall when experts comprehended the heavenly Tao. Later generations could comprehend the heavenly Tao according to the marks and comprehend their own domain from the heavenly Tao, thus achieving the goal of improving their domain. After a while, Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Under the stone wall, a figure was sitting cross-legged, quietly comprehending. Obviously, Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao had also passed the martial royal ordeal and reached the martial royal realm. Just now, Qiao Hao must have been comprehending the heaven Tao carvings here, and Qiao Ying was guarding Qiao Hao. When she saw someone approaching, she attacked. "Young Lady Qiao, Brother Qiao is currently in the process of comprehending. We'll be standing guard outside the cave. I'm afraid we'll disturb him if we stay here," Lu Ming said. "All right." Qiao Ying nodded and walked out of the cave abode with Lu Ming. They waited quietly outside. About 3 hours later, Qiao Hao walked out of the cave abode. He was overjoyed to see Lu Ming. "Brother, you finished comprehending?" Qiao Ying asked. "Yes, that heavenly Tao mark is not too profound. Furthermore, with my comprehension, I can only comprehend up to this point." Qiao Hao nodded and sighed. "Brother Lu, you'll have to comprehend it now. I've already comprehended it before. Big brother and I will guard you," Qiao Ying said. "All right." Lu Ming nodded and walked into the cave abode. He sat cross-legged under the mark and stared at it. Buzz! The mark began to change in Lu Ming's eyes. It turned into wisps of the great Taoist aura, which was extremely mysterious. Lu Ming sensed it carefully and verified it with his chaos domain. The chaos realm was the king of all realms. It was all-encompassing, but no matter how mysterious it was also a part of the great Tao of heaven and earth. It also needed to be comprehended from the great Tao of heaven and earth. Gradually, Lu Ming fell into an ethereal state. Chaos is everything. It is the beginning and the end of everything. As time passed, Lu Ming's body emitted a layer of chaotic radiance. The Qiao family siblings sat cross-legged outside the cave abode, protecting Lu Ming. Suddenly, the siblings opened their eyes at the same time and looked into the distance. 2 beams of light streaked across the sky and flew towards them. Then, the light faded and 2 young men appeared in the sky. "There's an ancient cave mansion here. I'm quite lucky," a young man laughed. The 2 of them descended from the sky, and their eyes fell on Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao. "We want this place, you guys can get lost." A young man waved his hand and said. "Gentlemen, we found this place first. Besides, we have a friend who is cultivating inside." Xiao Ying explained. "Nonsense, so what if we found it first? With your friends, we'll get lost together." The young man from before berated. Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao's faces turned ugly. The other party was too overbearing. The moment they arrived, they immediately wanted to occupy this place and make Xiao Ying and the others scram. "My friend is cultivating. We'll leave when he's done," Xiao Hao said. "Nonsense, we don't have time to wait with you. If you don't leave, then stay here forever." The young man's face turned cold as a domain spread out from his body. Buzz! In a flash, he charged towards Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao. The other young man did not make a move, but just watched from the side with a cold smile. Autumn water, dense mist. Falling flowers and flowing water. Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao had no choice but to resist. The two of them both cultivated water domains. When their domains spread out, they formed water dragons that wrapped around each other. People from Dragon God Valley. Dragon God Valley has been going against my Tianshan sect all this time. They're really looking for death. The young man from before shouted coldly. With a wave of his hand, countless sharp lights slashed out, cutting the water dragons apart, and then towards Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao. Domain martial technique. Xiao Ying's expression changed drastically, and she hurriedly released her domain. Her true chi burst forth, and two water shields were set up in front of her. Bang! 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 One after another, the sharp radiances struck the water shield, causing it to shake violently and on the verge of collapse. Break! The young man from before, who was also the young man from the Tianshan sect, pressed his palm down again. An even stronger sharp light burst out and pressed toward the Chiu family siblings. Boom! This time, the water shield could no longer hold on and exploded. The siblings groaned as their bodies were sent flying. They crashed into the wall and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. "You dare to stop me? You're really looking for death." The young man from the Heaven God sect strode towards the Chiu sisters with a cold expression. "Oh, go in and take a look." The other youth from the Heavenly God sect dashed into the ancient cave and saw Lu Ming sitting cross-legged. Chapter 1418. 1418 Chapter 1418 Vast land. At the sight of Lu Ming, the young man from the Heavenly God sect's expression changed. However, when he realized that Lu Ming was cultivating, his face revealed a look of surprise and ferocity. "It's this brat. Even senior brother Lu Yan wasn't his match. But it's really a blessing from the heavens. This brat is currently cultivating. Haha. As long as I kill this brat, the Holy Maiden will definitely look at me in a new light." The young man was overjoyed. His vital essence burst forth, and he struck out a palm at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was still cultivating, and seemed to have forgotten himself. The terrifying palm force neared Lu Ming in an instant. At that moment, Lu Ming's body was filled with chaotic light, and his chaotic domain bloomed outward on its own. Boom! The young man's palm landed on the chaotic domain, and his body shook violently. His expression changed drastically, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying. He flew directly out of the entrance of the ancient cave mansion, and fell on the ground. Buzz! At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. No one would be in a good mood if they were interrupted at a critical moment in their cultivation. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, appearing outside the cave abode. Brother Lu, Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao were overjoyed. At first, they were extremely worried when they saw the other person rush into the cave abode, but they could do nothing about it. Now that they saw Lu Ming coming out unscathed, they heaved a huge sigh of relief. It's him. The young man outside felt his heart skip a beat when he saw Lu Ming. They had seen Lu Ming from afar, when he was transcending the tribulation. They were terrified to see him now. Let's go. Without a second thought, they turned and ran. The young man who was injured by Lu Ming did the same. Where do you want to go? Come back. Lu Ming's palm was in the air, and he suddenly sucked. Buzz! A terrifying devouring force burst out from Lu Ming's palm, and enveloped the two young men from the Heavenly God sect. The other party was originally flying forward at high speed, but after being enveloped by the devouring power, His figure seemed to be fixed in place. Then he was directly pulled back by the devouring power. No! The two of them roared and attacked with all their might, trying to break the devouring power. However, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed and the Chaos Realm pressed down. The two of them trembled and spat out mouthfuls of blood, as they were pulled back by the devouring power. Moreover, their blood essence, essential core, and fresh blood were rapidly flowing away, and flying into Lu Ming's palm. No, spare my life! This situation made the two of them scream in fear. However, Lu Ming was unmoved. The devouring power continued to erupt. In just half the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the two young men had turned into two dried corpses. Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao both gasped. Firstly, they were shocked by Lu Ming's combat strength. The two young men of the Tianshan sect had both passed the martial royal ordeal and entered the martial royal realm. Moreover, they had both cultivated domain martial techniques and had powerful combat strength. The Qiao family's brother and sister could not defeat one of them even if they joined forces. However, in Lu Ming's hands, the other party could not fight back at all. Lu Ming had killed the two of them without even moving a step. The second reason was that he was shocked at Lu Ming's overbearing methods. He directly devoured people and turned them into mummies. After devouring their blood essence, Lu Ming began to refine them. Now that Lu Ming had become a martial emperor, he had cultivated the dragon god combat body and devoured the refining power. He was much stronger than before. Very soon, the blood essence energy of both of them was almost completely refined by Lu Ming. As expected, it's not of much use. Lu Ming shook his head secretly. The devoured energy was still useful in increasing true yuan and condensing spirit bodies, but it had no effect on improving his territory. A domain was different from a concept. Intent Realm. It has Intent Realm runes that can be devoured and refined. It can be fused into one's own Intent Realm runes to increase one's own Intent Realm. However, a domain was even more wondrous. It did not have a physical form, and was just a form of comprehension of the martial artist. It was ethereal, and naturally could not be devoured and refined. Therefore, one had to rely on their own comprehension to break through the domain. However, Lu Ming was satisfied. He only needed to focus on his domain. His true essence could still be improved by devouring the refining power. This was a huge advantage compared to others. Lu Ming, are you alright? Qiao Ying stepped forward and asked. I'm fine. What about you guys? Lu Ming asked. We're only slightly injured. We'll be fine after we adjust our breathing. Qiao Ying said. Lu Ming, you can continue cultivating. We'll protect you. Qiao Hao said. Lu Ming shook his head and said. There's no need. The heavenly Tao mark is not too profound. I've already comprehended most of it. If I continue to comprehend it, I won't be able to gain much in a short period of time. You guys should recuperate first. After some comprehension, his chaos domain had improved a little. Not only was it completely stable, but it also seemed to have reached the middle stage of level 1. There were 9 levels of domains. Lu Ming could only break through to the second level of the Tao Martial Emperor realm if he cultivated the chaos domain to level 2. Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao sat down cross-legged, took a healing pill, and began to heal. 2 hours later, both of their injuries were almost fully recovered. The three of them did not stay any longer and soared into the sky, flying forward. Along the way, they came across some other buildings or cave abodes, but they were all one step ahead. The three of them did not stop and kept moving forward. Not long after, they arrived at a vast land. As far as the eye could see, there was a huge building complex in front of them. Huge palaces stood on a plain. From a distance, Lu Ming and the rest could see silhouettes flickering in the palaces. Many people were exploring the area. Such a large group of buildings. Could it be the emperor's bedroom? Even if it's not, it must be the residence of an important figure. There must be some treasures. Qiao Hao's eyes lit up. Let's go down and try our luck. Let's go, Lu Ming said. The three of them descended and landed in front of a huge hall. Boom, boom, and NBSB an astonishing boom erupted within the palace. The three of them walked up and saw 2 youths engaged in an intense battle. The ground was covered with corpses and blood that had yet to dry up. Hand over the treasure. One of the young men shouted, and launched a crazy attack on the other young man. Don't even think about it. Treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. Since I've obtained them, it means that I'm fated to obtain them. Another young man shouted, Bullshit, I'll kill you and the treasure will be mine. The man from before shouted. The two of them fought so fiercely that the palace was cracked and shattered. It was obvious that a treasure had appeared here, and everyone was fighting for it. The corpses here were all heaven's favorites who had entered this place, but now they were all dead. Let's go and take a look elsewhere, Lu Ming said. The three of them turned around and left for the other halls. Buzz, buzz, and MBSB whoosh. Suddenly, a group of people flew out from a palace. There were more than 100 of them. They were all young men who had come in. Their faces were pale. Run, run. Quickly run. The young men shouted. Buzz. Dense inscriptions suddenly appeared in the palace, and then a large array appeared. A black light cut through the void and stabbed toward the youths. Chapter 1419 Chapter 1419 Underground Palace. A series of shrill screams rang out. Most of the 100 or so people had their bodies pierced by the black light. They fell to the ground screaming, and no longer made any sound. Only a dozen or so people managed to escape with their lives. All of a sudden nearly 100 people died. Lu Ming could clearly see that out of the nearly 100 people, half of them had already passed the martial emperor's calamity and become martial emperors. The rest were still at the supreme level, but they had all died in an instant. The great emperor's secret realm was indeed not simple. There was danger at all times. Not only would they have to face the attacks of others, but the process of exploring would also be dangerous. I just saw someone sitting cross-legged inside. Indeed, there seems to be someone there, but there's no sign of life. He's already dead. There's definitely a treasure. The remaining 10 or so people didn't leave, but lingered around. This is an array, but it's no longer complete after so many years. If we find a gap, we might be able to enter. A young man who cultivated the Tao of inscription glanced around, trying to find a flaw in the formation. Lu Ming did the same, as he scanned the surroundings of the hall. Although the clone had not recovered and Lu Ming could not inscribe the formation, he shared the knowledge of the clone. In other words, the main body had the knowledge and vision of the clone. Even if he could not break the formation, he could still find the flaws. You guys follow me closely, Lu Ming said to Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao. Then he strode forward, with Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao following closely behind him. On the other side, the other young men also began to move, looking for the flaws in the formation and stepping in. Lu Ming, so you know about the Tao of inscription, but I don't feel your mental energy fire. Strange. As they walked, Qiao Ying sized Lu Ming up curiously. She found it rather strange. Lu Ming smiled and did not explain further. The three of them walked in circles, and after a while, they finally passed through the formation and entered the hall. There's someone, Qiao Ying said. In the hall, there was a person sitting cross-legged. It was a woman who looked to be in her 40s. Unfortunately, she had no life force. It was obvious that she was a corpse. Could this be someone from the great emperor's secret realm? Emperor Tsong has been missing for 60,000 years. Could this person have died 60,000 years ago? Qiao Hao guessed. Their hearts trembled. If this person had died 60,000 years ago, and his body hadn't rotted yet, then his cultivation must be shockingly high. A saint. The three of them thought at the same time that only a saint realm expert could maintain his body for so many years without rotting. Otherwise, even a peak emperor's body would have rotted after 60,000 years. How did this person die? There's no wound at all, Qiao Ying said. After a careful examination, he did not find any wounds on the other party's body. His storage ring is also gone. Could it be that he was killed and his storage ring was taken away? But why aren't there any wounds? Lu Ming frowned and could not figure it out. The few of them looked around. There were some chairs and tables in the hall, but after so many years, they had already rotted and turned into ashes. In the end, their gazes fell on the woman. She was wearing a purple feather dress, which was obviously a supreme treasure. Even after so many years, it was still shining with spiritual light. This was definitely a valuable treasure. It was worn by a saint, so it was very likely a saint weapon. Holy weapon! Their eyes lit up. At this moment, footsteps were heard, and a few young men rushed in. The moment they entered, their gazes fell on the woman. Holy weapon! This is definitely a holy weapon. Its value is immeasurable. The few young men's eyes were burning with passion. Then, their gazes landed on Lu Ming and the rest, and a ferocious look flashed across their faces. How about we kill these people and split them equally? A young man said. Sure, kill. The few young men charged at Lu Ming, and the rest at the same time, unleashing all sorts of powerful techniques. These people were all very powerful. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to escape from the formation. When they attacked together, their power was astonishing. You're looking for death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He took a step forward, and a violent aura emanated from his body. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming continued to punch out, and his fist force streaked across the void. The attacks of the few youths were unable to withstand a single blow from Lu Ming's fist force, and instantly collapsed. The fist force didn't stop, and continued to bombard the few young men. No! Their expressions changed drastically. They wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Their screams were drowned out by the fist force. When the fist force disappeared, Lu Ming had already pierced through the bodies of the few young men, and they died on the spot. Ying, this feather robe is for a woman. Take it. Lu Ming said. This? How can I? Xiao Ying wanted to reject him. After all, they were only following Lu Ming, and they were all relying on him. They had also relied on Lu Ming to enter this hall and kill those few people. She didn't even put in any effort. But the treasure was going to belong to her. How could she accept it? It's fine. We can't use a woman's things. Just accept it, Lu Ming said. Xiao Ying pondered for a moment before nodding her head. She bowed to the woman, then took off the feather clothes on the woman's body, and kept them in her storage ring. Then, the three of them followed the original path, and left the palace. An underground palace has appeared in front of us. Let's go and take a look. There's definitely a valuable treasure. As soon as the three of them walked out of the palace, they heard this news. Streaks of rainbow light streaked across the void, and flew towards the depths of the buildings. An underground palace? The three of them looked at each other, and saw the intention in each other's eyes. Shall we go and take a look? Xiaohao said. Let's go. Lu Ming nodded. The three of them rose into the air, and flew toward the depths of the building. Below them, the vast buildings flashed past. Soon, the three of them saw a dense crowd of thousands standing in the air before them. One by one, they exuded a powerful aura. More than half of them exuded the aura of martial emperors. Most of the young men who had entered this time were originally at the limit of the Supreme Being realm, especially the local young men. Therefore, as soon as they entered, they underwent their tribulation and broke through to the martial emperor realm. The rest had yet to break through, because their cultivation had yet to reach the limit of the Supreme Being realm. The group of people looked forward. Lu Ming and the other two stepped forward and looked ahead. In front of them, on a plain, there was a place that had caved in. A layer of faint light was spreading out. It was a building in the corner. From its shape, it should be a corner of a huge palace. The other parts of the palace were still buried underground. From the conversations of the people around them, Lu Ming and the rest learned that there was a huge battle here previously. The ground caved in and they discovered this palace. Everyone, this palace is buried deep underground. It must be extraordinary. How about we dig it out? Someone suggested. Chapter 1420. 1420 The Terrifying Fortress. Alright, I agree. I also agree. Everyone chimed in. Faced with such an underground palace, everyone was very tempted to go in and explore. Alright, let's start then. Then he began to make his move. And in BSB the people here were all experts with high cultivation, so it was naturally not difficult to excavate a palace. They split open the ground, and threw large amounts of rocks and soil into the distance. Soon, a huge palace revealed its true appearance in front of everyone. Rather than a palace, it was more like a fortress. This fortress was extremely huge and grand. It could be seen that the people living in this fortress were also extraordinary. Could it be the great emperor's palace? Some people guessed. In front of the fortress, there was a stone door that was tightly closed. Buzz! Someone slashed out a sword light at the wall of the fortress, but the fortress didn't move at all. Not even a mark was left. It seemed that the only way to enter the fortress was through the gate. Boom! Someone sent out a palm print and hit the door from a distance. The door shook violently, but it did not open. Everyone, let's work together to break this door. Someone suggested, and everyone nodded. Buzz! Buzz! And NBSB whoosh! Instantly, beams of light flew out from the crowd and headed for the gate of the fortress. Boom! 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 The door shook violently and began to shake. It's effective. Continue. Bombard. More rainbow lights and all sorts of attacks were launched at the door. The door shook even more violently. Gotcha! Finally, the door creaked and slowly opened. A moment later, the door was completely opened. Behind the door was a dark area. At this moment, many people stopped and looked around. Now that the door had been opened, the people who had been working together just now would immediately become enemies and competitors, because everyone wanted the treasure. At this moment, Lu Ming did not know why, but he suddenly felt his heart palpitate. He had a feeling that a great disaster was imminent. Kill, kill, kill. At this moment, a terrifying sound rang out from within the fortress. A wave of fluctuations that made one's heart palpitate was emitted from the gate. Some of the young men standing in front didn't even have time to react before their bodies exploded. Not good retreat. Lu Ming's expression changed. He pulled Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao and retreated frantically. Kill! 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 In the fortress, the roars were endless and contained endless killing intent. There was a strong sense of unwillingness in the voice. An invisible wave swept out from the door. One by one, the bodies of the young men exploded into pieces. Run, run, run. The rest of the people were scared out of their wits and frantically fled. However, the invisible fluctuation was spreading rapidly. One by one, the young men screamed miserably as they were crushed into pieces. Buzz! A wave of fluctuation spread towards Lu Ming, making his heart palpitate. Block it! Lu Ming set up a chaos domain in front of him, enveloping Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao. At the same time, his glabella glowed, and a lightning cauldron appeared in front of him. Clang! The lightning cauldron was the first to be hit by an invisible force. It trembled violently and was sent flying. Then the chaos realm shook violently as well. A terrifying force passed through the chaos realm and acted on Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body trembled and blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. On the side, Xiao Ying and Xiao Hao both spat out mouthfuls of blood, their faces pale. However, with the help of this force, Lu Ming retreated thousands of miles with the Qiu siblings and finally avoided the invisible attack. It could be seen how terrifying these fluctuations were. First, it sent the lightning cauldron flying. Then it passed through the chaos domain and injured Lu Ming. The others were in a worse state. There had been thousands of them, but almost all of them had died from that attack. Only a few people had managed to survive by relying on powerful secret techniques and powerful artifacts. They all looked at the fortress with fear. That fortress was simply a fortress that demanded death. Could it be that a supreme expert was living inside? What was that loud roar just now? After a few roars, the roar stopped and did not continue. What's going on? Lu Ming and the rest stood in the distance, sizing up the fortress with fear on their faces. This fortress was too strange. Just like that, they waited for a moment. But now the fortress was completely silent, without any movement. Buzz! At this moment, a jade talisman suddenly appeared on Xiao Ying's body. This jade talisman gave off a slight vibration, and then a light barrier enveloped Xiao Ying. What's going on? Xiao Ying was shocked. Buzz! In the next moment, the jade talisman carried Xiao Ying and flew towards the fortress in front of them. They flew through the gate of the fortress and disappeared. Their speed was astonishing. Ying! Xiao Hao's face turned pale with shock as he hurriedly chased after her and disappeared from the main entrance. There was no other abnormality. What's going on? Lu Ming was a little confused. Why did a jade talisman suddenly fly out of Qiu Yingying's body and bring her into the fortress? Everything changed so quickly that Lu Ming could not react in time. Let's go and take a look. In the end, Lu Ming gritted his teeth. The lightning cauldron floated above his head, and he enveloped his body with the chaos domain. He flew toward the gate of the fortress. There was nothing unusual all the way to the gate. Lu Ming did not stop. He flew directly into the door. Some people in the outside world were bewildered when they saw this. What's going on? Those few people who flew in were fine. Perhaps it's fine now, someone said. However, no one dared to enter. After a long time, someone finally gritted his teeth and flew towards the gate. He flew into the gate and disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, more people flew in. Furthermore, there were still people flying over from the distance. The inside of the fortress was very wide and huge. After Lu Ming flew through the door, a long passageway appeared in front of him. After flying past the passageway, he saw some forked corridors and passageways. Where did Yingying and the others fly to? Lu Ming frowned. He then randomly chose a passage and walked forward. There were stone houses on both sides of the passage. Lu Zhou walked into the first stone house, but found nothing. When he entered the second stone house, he finally made a discovery. A skeleton. Lu Ming had discovered a skeleton. The skeleton was as white as jade, and it sat cross-legged on the bed. It gave off the feeling that it had suddenly died while cultivating. Lu Ming deduced that he should be an emperor. However, after searching for a while, Lu Ming realized that the person's storage ring was also missing. Chapter 1421. 1421 Chapter 1421 Sacred Medicine. After sizing him up, Lu Ming left the place and headed to other stone houses. Lu Ming found a few skeletons in the stone houses one after another. They should be at the emperor level, but the storage rings were all gone. Lu Ming found nothing. Lu Ming walked along the passageway and finally came to a secret room. There were a few boxes in the secret room. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and he opened one of the boxes. Inside there were some refining materials. However, Lu Ming was overjoyed when he took a closer look. This was because these materials were too precious. They could all be used to refine saint weapons. If they were taken out, they would be worth cities. He had finally found something good. Lu Ming smiled and kept the box of refining materials into the mountain and river diagram. Then, Lu Ming opened the second big box. The second box also contained refining materials. They were all very precious refining materials for refining holy weapons. After Lu Ming kept it, he looked at the third box. There were only 3 boxes in total. The third box was the smallest. Could it be that they are all forging materials? Lu Ming thought to himself. He then opened the box. As soon as the box was opened, a strange fluctuation spread out. This fluctuation was extremely mysterious. It was like the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was extremely similar to the aura emitted by the heavenly Tao engraving that Lu Ming had seen in the ancient cave mansion. This was the aura of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Lu Ming looked into the box. Inside the box were pieces of chaotic colored stones. Each of them was about the size of a fist, and there were about 100 of them. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He seemed to have thought of something, and he looked surprised. Could this be the heavenly Tao stone? Lu Ming's heart was thumping. The heavenly Tao stone, as its name suggested, contained the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was said that it was born from chaos at the beginning of the world. It contained the great Tao, and was extremely precious. Martial Royal Realm experts could use the heavenly Tao stone to comprehend and upgrade their domains. Even sages could use the heavenly Tao stone to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. However, there were too few heavenly Tao stones. They were born at the beginning of the world, so there were very few of them. Moreover, with every piece used, there would be one less. Over the years, the number of heavenly Tao stones had been decreasing, and their prices had also become more and more precious. We're rich, we're rich. There are so many heavenly Tao stones here. Lu Ming was overjoyed. There were 108 pieces in total. My primal chaos domain is extremely difficult to cultivate and extremely slow to improve. It's far inferior to other domains. However, with the heavenly Tao stone, My speed won't be surpassed by others by too much. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. The Chaos Realm, the emperor of thousands of realms, was powerful, but it had a disadvantage. It was too difficult to cultivate. However, with the Heavenly Tao Stone, Lu Ming's comprehension speed would definitely be greatly accelerated. Lu Ming kept the Heavenly Tao Stone in a storage ring. He was afraid that it would be ruined by Dandan if he kept it in the mountain and river diagram. After keeping the Heavenly Tao Stone, Lu Ming left the place and continued to move forward. Not long after, there was light ahead, and at the same time, a burst of medicinal fragrance filled the air. The smell of herbs, there were spirit herbs. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he strode forward. As expected, there was a herb garden in front of Lu Ming. The strong herbal fragrance was rushing into Lu Ming's nose. So many spiritual herbs. This is the 1,000 opportunity fruit, and the jade snow lotus. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the room, and there was a burning glow in his eyes. At a glance, they were at least level 9 spiritual herbs. Lu Ming could tell that a few of them were half-divine herbs. A half-saint herb would become a saint herb if it advanced one step further. Lu Ming had once bought a half-divine medicine that was losing its spirituality, and planted it next to the path understanding ancient tree. Now it had completely recovered its original chi. However, there were at least 7 half-saint herbs here. Finally, Lu Ming looked ahead. It was a 1-meter-tall, crystal-clear tree, with brilliant lights and vibrant colors. It had a magical energy fluctuation. Heaven liquid ancient tree. Lu Ming muttered, his eyes filled with ecstasy. This was a saint herb, a true saint herb. Even a saint would break his head if he saw it. Every once in a while, a type of spiritual liquid would be produced on the branches and leaves of the heaven liquid ancient tree. It was called heaven liquid, and its value was immeasurable. Its effects were even greater than the water of life. Be it recovering true essence or healing injuries, it was extremely effective. There was a skeleton half squatting beside the heaven liquid ancient tree. It held a jade bottle in its hand, and seemed to be collecting the heaven liquid from the ancient tree. Lu Ming walked over and picked up the jade bottle. Indeed, there was half a bottle of heavenly liquid on the jade screen. That's great. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, he moved in a flash and put away all the level 9 spiritual herbs, and the half-divine herbs. Finally, he uprooted the sky liquid ancient tree, and planned to plant it in the mountain and river diagram. After keeping the spiritual herbs, Lu Ming had an idea, and entered the mountain and river diagram. First, Lu Ming went to the second body. After a few months of recuperation, and the help of a bottle of premium life potion, the second body had finally recovered from the explosion. However, his original chi had not fully recovered, and he needed to rest. Lu Ming took out half a bottle of heavenly liquid, took it, and finished it in one gulp. He then closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. Following that, Lu Ming took a step forward, and came to the place where Dandan and Bubbles were. The valley was originally filled with spirit herbs, but now, almost all of them had been eaten up. Dandan and Bubbles were sleeping soundly. As if sensing Lu Ming's arrival, Dandan opened her eyes in a daze and said, "Lu Ming, do you have any more spirit herbs? Give me some more. I'm about to recover." "Take it." Lu Ming waved his hand, and more than 100 supreme-grade level 9 spiritual herbs flew out. Every single one of these spiritual herbs was at the supreme grade of level 9. Furthermore, they had been nurtured in the herb garden for at least 60,000 years. Their medicinal strength was astonishing, far exceeding that of ordinary supreme grade level 9 spiritual herbs. So many level 9 spiritual herbs. "Boy, it seems that you have encountered another fortuitous encounter." Dandan's eyes lit up as she grabbed 2 and stuffed them into her mouth. Chirping, a white light flashed and Bubbles woke up. She grabbed a few spirit herbs and started gnawing. "With these spirit herbs, you guys should be able to recover, right?" Lu Ming said, his heart secretly aching. If he were to sell these spiritual herbs, he would definitely be able to sell them for a lot of rough stones. "Well, with these spiritual herbs, it's almost time. If there are more, I can even advance." Dandan muttered, stuffing spiritual medicine into her mouth as she spoke. "Oh, then I'll give you these too." Lu Ming took out the 7 half-divine herbs. If Dandan and Bubbles were to advance, it would be of great help to him. So he was naturally willing to part with them. Nest, this is a half-saint medicine. And 7. Dandan's eyes lit up. She leaped on all fours and pounced at Lu Ming. Bang! There was a flash of white light, and a bubble appeared. It kicked Dandan away, and appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. It swallowed a half-divine medicine in one gulp. Chapter 1422. 1422 Chapter 1422 Not saving. Ah, little guy, you're pissing me off, you dare to kick me? Dandan roared and rushed to Lu Ming's shoulder. She gritted her teeth, and glared at the bubble fiercely. Chirping, Bubbles burped, blinked her big black eyes, and looked at Dandan innocently, making Dandan so angry that she almost vomited blood. Come, there are 6 half-saint herbs here. Each of you will get 3. Lu Ming gave the 6 half-divine herbs to Dandan and Bubbles. That's not fair. Why do I only have 3 while this little guy has 4? Dandan shouted. Fuck, how old are you? Aren't you embarrassed to be so serious with Bubbles? Lu Ming's face was full of disdain. Chirping, Bubbles took the 3 half-divine herbs and stuffed them into her mouth, snuggling in Lu Ming's arms. Dandan's face turned green with anger. She took the 3 half-saint herbs with hatred and ran away. Then Lu Ming took out the Heaven Liquid Ancient Tree. Buzz! As soon as he took out the Heaven Liquid Ancient Tree, Dandan instantly rushed over again. Her eyes were wide open as she said, Nest sacred medicine, a true sacred medicine. Hey, this is the Heaven Elixir Fruit Tree. It's different from other sacred medicines. It's a waste to swallow it directly. If you dare to touch it, it'll cook you. Lu Ming stared at Dandan and said, he was just a little afraid that this fellow would swallow the Heavenly Liquid Ancient Tree while he was not around. Haha, why would I? Who am I? Moreover, the Heaven Liquid of the Heaven Liquid Ancient Tree is priceless. I know that there's no effect in directly swallowing it. Dandan smiled brightly, but her sneaky eyes still glanced at the Heaven Liquid Ancient Tree from time to time. Lu Ming could not be bothered with Dandan. He found a place and planted the Heavenly Liquid Ancient Tree. Lu Ming then exited the mountain and river diagram. This place is definitely the bedroom of an expert. Even if it's not a great emperor, it's still very impressive. Let's look for it again. Lu Ming left the herb garden and walked along the passageway. Soon he saw many forked passageways. He chose one at random and searched for treasures in the fortress. During this time he saw many skeletons. The bone armor was sparkling and translucent. They were all the bone armor of emperors. However, the strange thing was that these bone armor were completely undamaged. It didn't seem like they had experienced a great battle when they were alive. He didn't know how they had died. Furthermore, he did not see a single storage ring. Lu Ming explored along the way and gradually approached the center of the fortress. At the center of the fortress was a large hall, where an intense battle was taking place. More than a dozen young men and women surrounded the two of them. The two people who were surrounded were Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao. At this moment, Qiao Ying was sitting cross-legged, and her body was covered with a layer of holy light. She looked solemn, as if she had fallen into a kind of ethereal state. As for Qiao Hao, he held a shield in his hand, and a golden bell floated above his head. Both the shield and the golden bell emitted rays of light and a mysterious aura. Buzz! Buzz! 2 sword radiances, one from the left and the other from the right, pierced towards Qiao Hao at lightning speed and with shocking power. Buzz! The golden bell above Qiao Hao's head buzzed and 2 rays of light scattered down, destroying the 2 sword rays. A holy weapon is indeed powerful, a young man said. Everyone, let's attack together. The woman has obtained the inheritance of the expert here, and the man has 2 powerful saint weapons. 1 or 2 of us won't be able to take him down. A red-faced young man said. That's right, let's attack together. The others chimed in. All of them were at LV1 Martial Royal Realm. Qiao Hao's face turned serious when he sensed their auras. Brat, you'd better hand over your saint weapon. You can't swallow such a treasure. Also, break that woman's inheritance and make her hand over her inheritance. The red-faced young man said coldly, as he looked at Qiao Ying with greed in his eyes. This woman's luck was too good. She had actually obtained the inheritance of this place. The owner of this place was definitely an extraordinary expert. Who would not want the inheritance of such an expert? Don't even think about it. If you want to interrupt my sister's inheritance, she will be seriously injured or even killed. If you want to interrupt her, you will have to step over my dead body. Xiao Hao bellowed as he held his shield, and the golden bell above his head buzzed. Kid. Don't think you're all that just because you have 2 saint weapons. You've just obtained them, and haven't refined them yet. Besides, how much power can you use with your cultivation? You can't stop us. The red-faced young man sneered. Let's see who dares to touch the people of Dragon God Valley. At this moment, a voice came from a passage on the side of the hall. Then with a flash, a group of people appeared in the hall. There were more than 20 people. Each of them released their aura. They were all martial emperors. Dragon God Valley. Xiao Hao's eyes lit up and he quickly shouted, Senior brothers, save us. So it's you guys. A chuckle came from the crowd of Dragon God Valley, and a figure stepped out. This person was wearing a silver robe, and had a cold and arrogant expression. Who else could it be but Yinfeng? Yinfeng. Xiao Hao's expression changed. What's going on? Yinfeng strode out, and the other young men and women present had ugly expressions. It would be difficult to deal with so many people from Dragon God Valley. The treasures and inheritance here were discovered by all of us. Your Dragon God Valley wants to take it all for yourself? Aren't you too greedy? The red-faced young man said in a deep voice. Inheritance? A treasure? Yinfeng's eyes swept across Qiao Ying and Xiao Hao, and he immediately understood what was going on. A hint of greed flashed across his eyes. The 2 of you are quite lucky. One of you obtained an inheritance, and the other obtained a saint weapon. Now hand over your saint weapon. Yinfeng said. Leave it to you. Xiao Hao's expression changed. That's right, leave it to me. You take it, can you keep it? Also, immediately interrupt your sister's inheritance. How can she be qualified to accept the inheritance of such a powerful expert? Yinfeng said with slight disdain. No, I can give you my treasures, but I can't interrupt Yingying's inheritance. Xiao Hao gritted his teeth. Can't. If you don't want to hand it over, then you'll have to deal with this on your own. Yinfeng's face turned cold. Yinfeng sneered and walked to the side with the other disciples of the Dragon God Valley, as if it was none of their business. You guys, the elder said before that the disciples of Dragon God Valley should unite and help each other. You are not helping them. Xiao Hao looked at the red-faced young man and the others warily and shouted at the disciples of Dragon God Valley at the same time. United? We will naturally be united. But you are just a lowly ant from a savage island. What qualifications do you have to be united with us? Furthermore, you want to take over the treasures and inheritance. What a joke. Yinfeng sneered. In Dragon God Valley, Yinfeng's status seemed to be very high. The others looked at Xiao Hao and Qiao Yingying indifferently, and had no intention of helping them. The red-faced young man, and the others' eyes lit up at the sight of this. They slowly approached Xiao Hao, and a dozen powerful auras pressed down on him, making it difficult for him to breathe. Chapter 1423. 1423 Chapter 1423 Killed in one move. Detestable. Xiao Hao growled in his heart. Yinfeng and the others were too despicable. They were clearly trying to use this method to force Xiao Hao and Qiao Yingying to hand over the inheritance. It was fine for him to hand over the treasures, but when he was accepting the inheritance, he had to be completely focused. If he were to forcefully interrupt, it would be extremely dangerous, as it would destroy Qiao Yingying. This was something he would never agree to, even if he had to die. Xiao Hao stood in front of Qiao Yingying with the shield in his hand, and the golden bell floating above his head. Brat, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The red-faced young man shouted coldly. Who do you want to help? At this moment, a clear voice sounded in the hall. Buzz. Before he could finish his sentence, a shadow flashed, and a figure appeared beside Xiao Hao. His speed was so fast that no one could see how he had appeared. Lu Ming. Xiao Hao blurted out subconsciously. That's right, the person who had just appeared was Lu Ming. He had been walking around aimlessly in the fortress. Just now, he had arrived here and seen the scene in the hall. He used the wind elemental technique and appeared beside Qiu Hao. Yinfeng? The people from Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming's gaze swept across Yinfeng and the people from Dragon God Valley. The people of Dragon God Valley stood aside, not knowing what was going on. Lu Ming, it's like this. Qiu Hao briefly explained what had happened, and Lu Ming immediately understood what had happened. How despicable. Lu Ming cast a glance at Yinfeng. It's this kid. Hee this time, let's see how you die. When Yinfeng saw Lu Ming, he was stunned at first, then he revealed a cold smile. He was not Lu Ming's match before he reached the martial royal realm. However, now that he had reached the martial royal realm, and his spirit body had transformed into a low-grade earth spirit body, he was confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. Brat, you want to interfere in this matter? The red-faced young man's gaze fell on Lu Ming. What do you think? If you know what's good for you, get lost. Lu Ming berated coldly. Presumptuous. You want to interfere in this matter alone? You're courting death. I'll kill you first. The red-faced young man shouted coldly. With a wave of his hand, a blood-red swordlight slashed toward Lu Ming. This person was a disciple of the Blood Demon Tower, one of the 13 top sects in the Azure region. Clang! Lu Ming flicked his finger and flicked the blood-red sword radiance away. At the same time, he moved and threw a punch at the red-faced young man. Why would I? The red-faced young man's sword gleam was flicked away by Lu Ming's finger. He was shocked. He waved the long sword in his hand and dozens of sharp blood-red sword gleams bloomed out, stabbing toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's fist force crushed over, and the red-faced young man's sword gleam collapsed. Then, the fist force landed on the red-faced young man's body. The red-faced young man screamed in pain, and his body flew out. His body twitched a few times before he stopped moving. There was no sign of life left in him. Lu Ming's punch had dispersed the spiritual god in the red-faced young man's body. At the side, the other young men were shocked. Killing the red-faced young man with one punch shocked him. Which one of you still wants to die? Lu Ming's gaze swept across the other young men. The young men's expressions changed. Let's attack together. I don't believe that we can't kill him, with more than a dozen of us working together. A young man growled. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming appeared beside him and threw a punch. This person was dead. Who else is there? Lu Ming said indifferently. His cold killing intent filled the air, causing the remaining young men's faces to turn ugly. Innate spirit body. This person must be an innate spirit body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such strong combat power. They growled in their hearts, thinking that Lu Ming had an innate spirit body. Once an innate spiritual body broke through to the martial royal realm, the spiritual body would undergo a transformation. At the very least, it could become a low-grade earth spiritual body. Its combat strength would be so strong that it could completely crush other martial artists of the same level. This fellow. At the side, Yinfeng's eyes flashed with a cold light. Lu Ming had also broken through to the martial emperor realm, and his combat strength was extremely strong. However, he didn't really take it seriously. He could now kill a martial artist of the same level with one move. Get lost. Lu Ming berated. The dozen or so young men's faces were ugly, but they had no choice but to retreat. However, they only walked to the side and did not leave. They could tell that Yinfeng and the others were not on good terms with the Qiu Hao sisters. They would not give up so easily. Perhaps they could take advantage of the situation later. Why aren't you guys leaving? Lu Ming's gaze shifted to Yinfeng and the rest. Yinfeng's face was gloomy. He snorted and said, Lu Ming, do you think you can keep these treasures and legacies? It's best if you hand the treasure over to us. We'll help you bring it out and hand it over to the sect. Hand it over to the sect. We will hand it over ourselves. You don't have to worry about it. Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you're capable. I'll test your confidence now to see if you can keep the treasure. Yinfeng stepped forward, and a powerful aura emanated from his body. You've been defeated, yet you're looking for a beating again? Lu Ming said in disdain. That was then and this is now. Lu Ming, today, I'll let you see the difference between you and me. He said. Roar. Yinfeng's body glowed with a silver light, and a dragon's roar reverberated through the hall. His body glowed with silver light, and turned into a silver dragon that wrapped around his body. Silver dragon combat body. A terrifying spirit body. Silver dragon blazing star fist. Die. The silver dragon roared, and charged at Lu Ming like a beam of silver light. The silver emperor spiritual weapon glove, on its fist glowed with a dazzling light. As the fist force passed by, the space shook violently. Boom! Lu Ming casually took a step forward, and threw a punch. There was nothing unusual about this punch. It was ordinary. Thump! The two fists collided like two meteors. The terrifying sound waves caused the hall to rumble. Then a figure retreated. It was Yinfeng. He took 7 steps back, and with every step, the hall rumbled as if it was shaking violently. Impossible! Disbelief flashed in Yinfeng's eyes. After breaking through to the emperor level, his spirit body had become a low-grade earth spirit body, and was extremely powerful. With the addition of his territory, and the emperor's spiritual weapon, he thought that he would be able to crush Lu Ming. But now, he was completely at a disadvantage in just one move. Moreover, it seemed that Lu Ming had not used his full strength. Low-class earth spiritual body. You lowly ant, how could you cultivate a low-class earth spiritual body? Yinfeng roared. You think you're very noble? Do you think you're so great with a low-class earth spiritual body? I'll let you know that even if we're both low-class earth spiritual bodies, you're not worth mentioning in front of me. Lu Ming said coldly, and took a step forward. Thump! With a single step, the hall rumbled. Lu Ming appeared in front of Yinfeng. His body was like a huge dragon, twisting and swaying. A powerful force flowed through his arm, and he threw a punch. Explode! Die! Yinfeng roared as his aura started to increase. The peak of the first-level martial emperor realm. Chapter 1424. 1424. The prodigy leader. The aura on Yinfeng's body was extremely shocking. He had reached the peak of the LV1 martial royal realm. The great emperor's secret realm had only been open for a dozen days. But Yinfeng's cultivation had already reached the peak of LV1 martial royal realm. This was truly shocking. However, it wasn't hard to understand. A genius like Yinfeng, who had lived in the Yuan continent since he was young, had already reached the limit of the Supreme Being realm. The reason why he hadn't broken through to the martial emperor realm was because he had been suppressing it. His goal was to enter the great emperor's secret realm. They had been suppressed for too long, and had accumulated too much. Once they broke through to the emperor realm, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. It was normal for them to reach the peak of the first-level martial emperor realm in a dozen days. In fact, it wouldn't be long before he could break through to the second level of the martial royal realm. Yinfeng exploded with all his strength to fight against Lu Ming. Thump! The two fists collided, and the sound was like the ringing of a bell. However, the result was the same. Despite Yinfeng's peak LV1 martial emperor realm cultivation, he was still no match for Lu Ming. He was completely suppressed by Lu Ming, and was forced to retreat. In fact, Lu Ming did not even use the Chaos Realm. He simply used the Dragon God combat body, and the prison-suppressing heavenly technique to fight. Although Lu Ming's astral body was of the same level as Yinfeng, a low-grade astral body, he had been tempered by the World Refinement Tribulation Bell. There was a trace of Chaos Chi in his body, which made his astral body stronger than the average low-grade astral body. It was close to a medium-grade Earth spiritual body. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming continued to punch like an invincible god of war, completely suppressing Yinfeng. Yinfeng's body trembled, and he kept retreating. He spat out a mouthful of blood. At the side, the others were greatly shocked. Yinfeng was an innate spiritual body, and had even evolved into a low-grade Earth spiritual body, but he was still not Lu Ming's match. Lu Ming, this young man from the Savage Island, had a combat strength that was beyond their imagination. What's wrong? This is your combat power? Is this the source of your confidence? Didn't you want me to see the difference between you and me? Lu Ming sneered. Yinfeng let out a beast-like roar. He was so aggrieved. At the supreme level, he was suppressed by Lu Ming. Even now he was still suppressed. A blood-red light flashed on Lu Ming's spine. A wisp of energy from his third blood meridian gushed into Lu Ming's body. A layer of blood-red light emerged on Lu Ming's body. An endless killing intent enveloped Yin Feng. Yin Feng shivered as he was enveloped by the endless killing intent. Boom! After borrowing the power of his third bloodline, Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. When his fist collided with Yin Feng's fist again, a cracking sound was heard from Yin Feng's arm. His arm was completely twisted. Arg! Yin Feng screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppress! Lu Ming pressed his hand down, and the phantom of the prison-suppressing steel appeared on his arm, pressing down on Yin Feng. Bang! Yin Feng raised his arms and tried his best to resist. However, he was pressed down by Lu Ming's palm, and he immediately knelt down. With a loud bang, he knelt on the ground in front of Lu Ming. Even if you want to beg for mercy, there's no need for such a big gift, right? Lu Ming smiled faintly. I'm going to kill you. Yin Feng's eyes were red. He roared in anger and struggled madly. Last time, Lu Ming had stepped on his face 9 times, and he had become the laughingstock of Dragon God Valley. He was also ridiculed by his competitors. Now he was kneeling in front of Lu Ming. This was a great humiliation that he would never be able to wash away in his life. Even if he were to rise up against the heavens and rule the world in the future, this incident would still be a stain on his life. He was furious. He roared. He could not wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. However, what welcomed him was Lu Ming's kick. Lu Ming lifted his leg and kicked him. The sole of his foot landed on Yin Feng's face again. Yin Feng screamed, and his body slid down the floor. Buzz! Lu Ming took a step forward and chased after Yin Feng, about to stomp on him again. Enough! A voice was heard from the crowd of Dragon God Valley. Then a figure rushed out at an amazing speed. Buzz! 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 The figure instantly stretched out 9 blood-red dragon claws and clawed at Lu Ming. The wind from the claw howled with a mournful sound, and its power was astonishing. Lu Ming had a feeling that if he was scratched by the dragon claw, he would be crushed to pieces. Lu Ming identified the position by listening to the sound and struck out 9 palms in a row. His palms were covered by the chaos domain and collided with the 9 blood-red dragon claws. Bang! 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 There were 9 consecutive explosions. Lu Ming's figure was blocked, and the figure used the force to drift back dozens of meters. Second-level Martial Emperor Realm. Lu Ming's heart trembled slightly, and he looked at the other party. It was a very young man in his 20s. He looked even younger than Lu Ming, and was very handsome. Furthermore, he had striking blood-red long hair that was tied up casually. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he recognized this person. There were many geniuses and experts from the 13 top sects and forces who entered the Great Emperor's secret realm. This was especially so for the local talents. They had received the best training since young, and had many innate spirit bodies. Their combat power was extremely strong. However, there were still leaders among these people who suppressed the others. The leader of Dragon God Valley was Lu. Lu Ming had heard people talking about this on their way to the Great Emperor's secret realm. That was why Lu Ming recognized this person. This person was indeed powerful. He had only entered the Great Emperor's secret realm for a short time, but his cultivation had already broken through to LV2 Martial Royal Realm. It was truly shocking. Lu, help me kill him, help me kill this bastard. Yin Feng shouted hysterically. He was about to go crazy. Lu Ming, your combat strength is impressive. Let's fight another day. Let's go. To everyone's surprise, Lu didn't continue fighting, but retreated instead. Lu, what are you doing? Help me kill this bastard. Yin Feng shouted. Nonsense. Lu looked at Yin Feng coldly. He grabbed Yin Feng and walked into a passage. The other geniuses of Dragon God Valley looked at each other for a while before following Lu and leaving. After walking for a while, Lu, why didn't you kill that bastard and take the treasure? Yin Feng still asked. That's because even if I take action, I don't have absolute confidence that I can take down this Lu Ming. Lu stopped and said solemnly. What? The others from Dragon God Valley, including Yin Feng, were all stunned. How is that possible? Yin Feng asked after a while. Your cultivation has already broken through to the LV2 Martial Royal Realm. And your spiritual body is a medium-grade earth spiritual body. How could you not defeat that kid? He frowned and seemed to be thinking. After a long while, he let out a long breath and said, "This Lu Ming gives me a very dangerous feeling. We exchanged a few moves in a hurry just now. He did not use his full strength at all. I have a feeling that if we were to fight to the death now, I might be the one who dies." What? Yin Feng and the others were stunned once again. They found it hard to believe. Yu, the unparalleled genius of Dragon God Valley, actually thought that he was no match for Lu Ming. How was this possible? There were not many people in the younger generation of the Dragon God Valley who could cultivate a medium-grade earth spiritual body. He would definitely become a top figure in the Dragon God Valley in the future. How could such a figure be no match for a young man from a deserted island? Chapter 1425. 1425 The Rainbow Bridge. Let's go. We shouldn't provoke him in the Great Emperor's secret realm for the time being. When my cultivation improves, I'll be 100% confident, he said, and then strode forward. Lu Ming watched as Yu and the rest left, not pursuing them. He wasn't afraid of Yu, but he was afraid of causing more trouble. Right now, Qiu Ying was trying her best to receive the inheritance. If he were to fight with Yu, the commotion would be too great, and it would probably affect Qiu Ying's inheritance. Seeing that Yu and the rest had left, the rest of the spectators did not dare to stay any longer. They all ran away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only Qiu Ying, Qiu Hao and Lu Ming were left in the hall. "Lu Ming, you have saved us again. Many thanks." Qiu Hao walked to Lu Ming's side and cupped his fists at him. His eyes were filled with gratitude. During this period of time, Lu Ming had saved the siblings many times. Otherwise, they did not know what the consequences would be. Naturally, he was extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled. "You don't have to be so polite. We're friends, aren't we? Since I've encountered it, do you expect me to just stand by and do nothing?" Lu Ming said it casually, but Qiu Hao was even more grateful. "By the way, Lu Ming, I got 2 holy weapons here. You can take this shield," Lu Ming said. Qiu Hao passed the shield to Lu Ming. "Brother Qiu, this is your chance. Why are you giving it to me?" Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. Although holy weapons were very precious, to be honest, Lu Ming was very tempted. However, this was Qiu Hao's opportunity, and Lu Ming would not take it away from him. "Lu Ming, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to keep these 2 holy weapons. The golden bell is very compatible with me, but the shield isn't. Perhaps it's more suitable for you." Qiu Hao insisted on giving the shield to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had no choice but to take the shield. "It's so heavy." As he took the shield, he felt his palm sink slightly. Lu Ming had cultivated the Dragon God combat body and was extremely powerful. However, he still felt that the shield was a little heavy. Its weight was shocking. The shield exuded a mysterious wave, which was similar to the air-frozen bead and the lightning cauldron that Lu Ming had obtained. A holy weapon shield is definitely a rare treasure. Lu Ming also liked it a little. This shield was priceless in the outside world. Immediately, Lu Ming and Qiu Hao sat cross-legged on Qiu Ying's left and right, and began to refine their own saint weapons. Zhen Yuan poured into the shield. The shield hummed and emitted a buzzing sound. Not long after, the shield shrunk rapidly and flew into the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows, disappearing. The shield could already be considered to be at the initial stage of refinement. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Ming to completely refine it now, and he could not unleash the full power of the shield. This was a holy weapon. Just like the lightning cauldron, Lu Ming had been in possession of it for many years, but he could only unleash a small portion of its power. The difference in their cultivation levels was too great. Lu Ming stood up and realized that Qiu Hao was still refining the golden bell. The golden bell hovered above Qiu Hao's head and shone with a bright light that enveloped him. After a while, the golden bell turned into a ray of golden light and disappeared into Qiu Hao's forehead. He had also completed the initial refinement. Buzz! At this moment, Qiu Ying's body emitted a strong wave of energy. So strong! Lu Ming felt as if he was facing a sage when he sensed the fluctuation. The terrifying pressure made him feel suffocated. But this fluctuation, the moment it was released, it quickly converged into Qiu Yingying's body and disappeared. At this time, Qiu Yingying opened her eyes. Yingying, did you succeed? Qiu Hao looked at Qiu Yingying expectantly. I've succeeded. Qiu Yingying nodded, and Qiu Hao was overjoyed. Lu Ming, thank you for your help. Qiu Yingying bowed to Lu Ming. Previously, although she was receiving the legacy, she still had a vague sense of what was happening in the outside world. She knew that Lu Ming had saved them. Otherwise, Qiu Yingying would not have received the legacy. It would be considered good if she could even keep her life. You're welcome, Yingying. Why were you suddenly brought in earlier? What's going on? Lu Ming asked curiously. It's that jade token. I obtained it by accident when I first entered the Great Sovereign Secret Realm. I didn't know what it was for, so I kept it with me. I didn't expect it to be the key to the inheritance here. I obtained the inheritance with this jade token. Qiu Yingying said. Lu Ming sighed. This was an opportunity. Yingying, did you get any useful information from the inheritance? Qiu Hao asked curiously. I haven't fully digested the inheritance yet. I've only just received it, so I don't know much. I only know that this is the inheritance of an absolute saint senior. Qiu Yingying said. Absolute saint. Lu Ming and Qiu Hao were shocked. An absolute saint was in existence that was close to a great emperor. For Qiu Yingying to actually obtain the inheritance of an absolute saint, the two of them were happy for Qiu Yingying. However, in the inheritance, I did obtain an important piece of information regarding Emperor Tsong. It's said that the 7 inheritances will appear. When the 7 rainbow bridges break through the void, Emperor Tsong's bedroom will appear. Qiu Yingying said. 7 different inheritances? Yingying, you're one of them. But what do you mean by 7 rainbow bridges? Lu Ming frowned. Qiu Yingying also shook her head, indicating that she did not know. We'll go out first. I'm afraid the other places have already been searched. Lu Ming said. Then, the 3 of them went out. After going around here and there, the 3 of them left the fortress. Buzz. When the 3 of them left the fortress, the entire fortress trembled violently, and a bright light shone. In the end, under everyone's shocked gazes, the light gathered on the fortress and formed a massive rainbow that pierced through the air, extending to an unknown place and disappearing into the vast sky. Rainbow Bridge, this is the Rainbow Bridge, Qiu Hao exclaimed. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Rainbow Bridge. Now they understood. It seemed that there were 7 kinds of inheritances in this secret realm. Whenever someone obtained an inheritance, a rainbow bridge would be activated, leading to the depths of the void. Emperor Tsong's bedroom would only appear when the 7 rainbow bridges converged. Buzz! 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 The fortress trembled, causing many of the young men in the fortress to fly out. They looked up at the sky at the rainbow bridge, not knowing what was going on. What's going on? Many people looked at each other. Let's go and find the next inheritance, Lu Ming said. They naturally wouldn't explain it to the others. The 3 of them soared into the sky and left the place. Whoosh! Not long after they flew out, a rainbow light suddenly broke into the void in the distant sky. Rainbow Bridge, another rainbow bridge. It was obvious that someone had already obtained the inheritance. One end of the 2 rainbow bridges broke into the void, and they were heading in the same direction. Not long after, the secret of the Rainbow Bridge was finally revealed. With an extremely fast speed, it spread throughout the entire mystic realm, causing everyone's hearts to burn with excitement. Chapter 1426. 1426. Terrifying insects. Everyone in the Great Emperor's secret realm started to search for inheritances. The next inheritance will definitely be mine. I must obtain the next inheritance. Many young men had firm gazes and confident expressions. The leaders of the 13 sects were especially excited. These leading figures were only the leaders of this batch of people who had entered the mystic realm. They were not the leaders of the younger generation of their sections. In the younger generation of each sect, many people had already broken through to the martial royal realm. Many geniuses were in the martial royal realm, and some people were even more talented than them. This time, the Great Emperor's secret realm was their opportunity. If they could obtain an inheritance, they would be able to win the competition among the younger generation. Lu Ming, Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao were flying aimlessly. They did not have any clues to find the inheritance, so they could only rely on luck. Buzz! Buzz! In front of him, there were a few beams of light that were heading in one direction. The three of them didn't pay much attention to it. However, after that, they saw rainbow lights flying by from time to time. Moreover, they were all flying in the same direction. The three of them were very curious. At this moment, another figure flew past. Lu Ming stopped the other party. What a coincidence! This person was also a disciple of Dragon God Valley. The land of inheritance might appear ahead. The disciple of the Dragon God Valley only left a few words before he left in a hurry. The land of inheritance? The eyes of the three people lit up. It seemed that someone had found the land of inheritance. Let's go and take a look, Lu Ming said. The three of them flew in that direction at high speed. After flying for more than an hour, the terrain gradually became desolate. Although the terrain was flat, there was no vegetation. The three of them continued flying. There's someone in front. Qiao Ying pointed to the front. In front of him, there was a person lying there motionless. The three of them flew over and found that the man was already dead. The air was filled with the faint smell of blood. How did this person die? There's no wound at all, Qiao Hao said after checking. It's in the dantian. Lu Ming found an extremely tiny hole on the person's clothes in his dantian. When he undid the person's clothes, he discovered that there was also an extremely tiny hole in his dantian. It seemed to have been pierced by some sharp weapon. It was a fatal blow, and even the spiritual god could not escape. The three of them looked around and continued to move forward. However, not long after, the three of them stopped. This time they saw a few corpses. After checking, they found that the cause of death of each corpse was the same. Their dantian had been pierced by a sharp weapon, and they were all killed in one blow. Judging from the auras left behind, these people should all be at the Supreme Being realm. The three of them continued on their way, but not long after they were shocked. Corpses. The path was covered with corpses. There were thousands of corpses in a certain area. Each of them had died in the same way. Their dantians had been pierced through. Some of them were even emperor-level figures. As they moved forward, they saw more corpses. There were at least 5,000 of them. There were so many people here, and they were all geniuses. Any one of them would be a top existence in the continent of the Divine Ruins. But now they had died here without a sound. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The Yuan continent was indeed many times more dangerous than the continent group of the Divine Ruins. What is this place? Why is he so evil? Qiao Ying's little face turned pale, and she was a little frightened. What kind of existence could kill so many people with the same kind of wound? This is unbelievable. Qiao Hao's heart was pounding. Such a scene was too evil. Anyone would be scared. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion in front of them. A figure charged into the sky, and then dove down. Get lost, get lost. The figure let out an angry roar. The saber in his hand slashed out in all directions with shocking power. So strong. This person is not weaker than Yin Feng. Qiao Ying exclaimed. Such a powerful figure seemed to be in a fatal crisis at this moment. He was killing and slashing out bright saber light. Ding! 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 His saber light slashed out, and there was actually a ding-ding sound in the air. It's a type of butterfly. Qiao Ying suddenly pointed to the front and exclaimed. At the same time, Lu Ming and Qiao Hao also saw it. There was a type of butterfly that was almost transparent. It was astonishingly fast as it shuttled through the air. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to see it. Furthermore, this type of butterfly had two spikes on its tail that were like two extremely small swords. Swordtail plate. 3 words appeared in Lu Ming's mind. The swordtail plate was an extremely terrifying insect. This kind of vicious insect was almost transparent, and its speed was shocking. It moved without a shadow, and there were 2 sword-like spikes on its tail. The attack and penetration power of these spikes were terrifying, and they were extremely fast. Ordinary people would be pierced by the spikes and die on the spot, before they could even notice. That was how the swordtail plate got its name. Lu Ming finally knew how those people had died. They were killed by the swordtail disc. At that moment, the person in front was being attacked by hundreds of swordtail plates. He tried his best to resist. When he saw Lu Ming and the rest, his eyes lit up and he rushed toward them. "This guy wants to drag us into this," Qiu Hao said. A golden bell appeared above his head, and a curtain of light enveloped him. On Qiu Ying's body, a feather robe emitted a light that also covered her. "Go back," Lu Ming said coldly, and threw a punch at the other party. The terrifying fist force flooded towards the young man. "You dare to?" the young man shouted angrily. Lu Ming pursed his lips. This person was going to drag them down, and Lu Ming did not dare to retaliate? Boom! The young man had no choice but to slash at Lu Ming's fist force. With a loud bang, the young man was sent flying. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, the sharp spikes on the tail of the sword-tail dish stabbed toward the young man, leaving a few small holes in his body. Fortunately, they did not hit any vital parts. The young man rushed into the sky and flew into the distance. His voice came from afar. "Just you wait." Then he disappeared into the horizon. A group of sword-tail plates chased after him. However, the young man had indeed successfully dragged Lu Ming and the rest into the water. At least half of the sword-tail disc that was originally attacking the young man was now heading toward Lu Ming and the rest. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sharp ear-piercing sounds were heard. Hundreds of sharp spikes were aimed at Lu Ming and the other two. Buzz! Lu Ming activated his Chaos Realm. The Chaos Realm spread out and enveloped all the swordtail plates. Then, Lu Ming pressed down with one hand, and the terrifying power of the Chaos Realm crushed toward the swordtail plates. The primal chaos domain weighed hundreds of millions of caddies, and the pressure it exerted was astonishing. The spikes exploded in the air, and so did the swordtail plates, crushed to death by the chaos domain. Chapter 1427. 1427. The Royal Fruit. It seems like it's not safe up ahead. I'm afraid there will be a large number of swordtail plates. Yingying, brother Qiu. Lu Ming looked at Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao. What he meant was obvious. It was too dangerous to continue forward. With Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao's strength, they would be in danger if they entered. "Lu Ming, big brother, and I will wait for you outside," he said. Qiu Yingying was very smart and quickly opened her mouth. She knew that if she and Qiu Hao followed Lu Ming, they would only be a burden to him. Lu Ming could only move freely when he was alone. "All right, then you guys wait for me outside." Lu Ming nodded. "Lu Ming, you have to be careful," Qiu Yingying said worriedly. "Don't worry." Lu Ming smiled and soared into the sky. Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao returned the way they came and left the place. Buzz! Lu Ming was alone. His speed suddenly increased like a phantom. He flashed past the void. Whoosh! 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 After Lu Ming had flown for a while, hundreds of swordtail plates launched attacks at him. It was so sudden and so fast that an ordinary martial emperor would not be able to survive such an attack. However, Lu Ming was no ordinary martial emperor. The Chaos Realm covered his entire body. The sharp spikes of the sword-tail disc could not break through Lu Ming's Chaos Realm at all. The primal chaos domain trembled, and the spikes were all shattered. Boom! Then, Lu Ming threw a punch and the chaos domain crushed forward. The swordtail discs exploded under the powerful fist force. Lu Ming did not stop, and continued to move forward. Along the way, Lu Ming encountered a few waves of attacks, but he simply dashed past them and blasted them into pieces. Soon, a forest appeared in front of them. That's... Lu Ming's gaze looked into the distance. This forest occupied a very large area. In the center of the forest, there was a tall tower in the shape of a sword. It was like a divine sword that pierced through the sky. Even from far away he could see it. Is that the land of inheritance? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Get lost. Not far away, someone was charging forward. This person was very strong, and should be someone with an innate spirit body. However, at this moment, a large group of swordtail plates flew out from the forest below and attacked this person. This person tried his best to attack, but he couldn't break through the defense of the swordtail plates. Several big holes were pierced in his body, and he almost died here. He could only retreat in a sorry state. Lu Ming swept his gaze across the forest and discovered that there were many corpses. This was because all of them had wanted to charge through the forest and had been killed by the swordtail disc. Presumably, this forest was the lair of the sword's tailplate, and no one knew how many sword's tailplates were living in it. If they wanted to enter the sword pagoda, they had to pass through this forest. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, another group of swordtail plates flew out and headed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming pressed forward with one hand, and the chaos domain spread out, enveloping the swordtail plates. Then, with a shake, the swordtail plates were shaken to death and fell into the forest like raindrops. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stepped forward and walked toward the sword pagoda. Wait a moment. Suddenly a cold shout was heard. Then 2 beams of light flashed toward Lu Ming. The beams of light converged and 2 figures appeared. It's you. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. One of them was the young man who had been besieged by the sword's tailplate, and then directed it to Lu Ming and Xiao Yingying. Lu Ming did not look for him, but he appeared on his own. The other person's aura was also extremely strong. It was obvious that he was a heaven's favorite of the same level as this person. Your domain is very mysterious. It can actually restrain the swordtail disc. No wonder you're not dead. Now take us there. The young man who had dragged Lu Ming and the rest into the water previously said coldly. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lu Ming sneered. What did you just say? The young man's eyes turned cold. You framed me before and wanted to drag me down to help you escape. Now, you're actually asking me to bring you over. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lu Ming continued. If you don't take me there, you'll die now. The young man said, his body exuding a cold killing intent. Oh really? Then you just go to hell. As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, he threw a punch. Driven by Lu Ming's fist force, the chaos domain crushed toward the young man. You still dare to attack, you're courting death. That's not right. The young man started to shout, but soon, he realized that Lu Ming's fist force was unbelievably powerful. He mustered all his strength and slashed with his saber. However, under Lu Ming's fist force, the saber radiance was shattered and the fist force landed on his body. Bang! Half of his body exploded. Although his combat strength was not weaker than Yin Feng's, Lu Ming did not use his Chaos Realm when he fought with Yin Feng previously. Now that he used his Chaos Realm, he could simply crush Yin Feng. Buzz! Lu Ming reached out and grabbed half of the young man's body. Spare me! The young man was not dead yet, and he was begging for mercy in fear. It's too late to beg for mercy now. Lu Ming swung his arm and threw half of the young man's body into the forest. Instantly, dense sword-tail discs flew out of the forest. No, the young man roared. In the next moment, he was drowned by the sword-tail plate. His whole body was pierced into a hornet's nest, and he died on the spot. Did I let you go? Lu Ming took a step forward, his body like a stream of light. The other young man was almost scared to death when he saw Lu Ming's combat strength. He fled in fear. However, Lu Ming's speed was so fast that he caught up to him in a few breaths. The result was already decided. With one move, the young man was half dead. Lu Ming followed the same pattern and threw the heavily injured young man into the forest, where he was pierced by 10,000 arrows. Then, Lu Ming continued to walk forward. The dense sword-tail disc rushed out of the forest and pounced at Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming covered his entire body with the chaos domain and cast the wind element technique. His entire person seemed to have transformed into a long spear, and he charged forward. The sword-tail disc exploded wherever Lu Ming passed by, opening a path in the dense cluster of sword-tail discs. The sword-tail disc could not stop Lu Ming at all. Not long after, Lu Ming successfully rushed through the forest and approached the sword pagoda. The strange thing was that as soon as they rushed through the forest, the sword-tail plates stopped chasing and all retreated. Boom! Buzz! Not far from the sword pagoda, a terrifying rumble was heard. Someone was fighting. Get lost! The royal fruit is mine. You think you can get the royal fruit? In your dreams. Die! Swordlight, saberlight, and palmprint surged. 4 figures were in a chaotic battle in that area. These 4 people's combat strength was shocking. They were even stronger than Yin Feng. No wonder he could break through the encirclement of the sword's tailplate and rush here. The royal fruit. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He swept his gaze across the surroundings and discovered 3 fruit trees. Each fruit tree had a fruit growing on it. Each fruit was crystal clear and resplendent. The aura of the great Tao lingered around them. It really is the royal fruit. Lu Ming's eyes brightened instantly. There was a fiery glow that flashed past. Chapter 1428. 1428 Chapter 1428 Sword Pagoda Confrontation. The royal fruit was a rare treasure. It was said that a low-level martial emperor's cultivation would rise by 1 level after eating a royal fruit. Even a high-level martial emperor would be of great help after taking it. It could help one break through a bottleneck. In the martial emperor realm, if one wanted to improve their cultivation, they first needed to improve their territory, then cultivate their vital essence, and form a spirit body. However, the royal fruit could directly raise one's cultivation by 1 level. The most amazing thing was that no matter what field a warrior cultivated in, it would be useful when consumed. Such a treasure was simply heaven-defying. It was no wonder that these people were so busy fighting over it. The 3 royal fruits are mine. Lu Ming moved and pounced toward the royal fruit. The primal chaos domain he cultivated was dozens, or even hundreds of times more difficult to level up than ordinary domains. However, if he had the royal domain fruit, how much time and energy could he save? Such a rare treasure was hard to come by. Since he had encountered it, how could Lu Ming give it up? You're looking for death. You want to take the royal fruit? Die. The 4 people who were in the midst of a chaotic battle had also discovered Lu Ming. They roared angrily and attacked Lu Ming at the same time. The combat strength of these 4 people was very shocking, and had surpassed people like Yin Feng. Even Lu Ming could not ignore the 4 of them when they attacked in anger. Boom! 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 Lu Ming threw 4 consecutive punches, crushing the attacks of the 4 people. What powerful strength! The 4 of them were shocked when they saw that Lu Ming had destroyed their attack with just a wave of his fist. We're no match for this man's combat strength alone. If he gets the royal fruit, we'll have no hope at all. A young man said. That's right. Why don't we join forces and kill this man first before we fight for the royal fruit? All right. I was thinking the same thing. The 4 young men moved in a flash and surrounded Lu Ming in the middle. Powerful steam engines were released and locked onto Lu Ming. Get lost! Lu Ming bellowed, forming a terrifying sound wave that attacked a young man in front of him. At the same time, he threw a punch at the young man in front of him. If he wanted to fight, he had to focus on one person. The young man's expression changed. He did not expect that Lu Ming would dare to make the first move against the 4 of them. Sword chi bloomed in his hand. A sharp sword chi burst out and broke the air wave that Lu Ming spat out. However, when his sword gleam slashed at Lu Ming's fist, his expression changed drastically. As the primal chaos domain crushed down, his sword light was like a willow leaf in the wind, rapidly swaying as if it would collapse at any moment. At this moment, the other 3 people also made their moves. The saber beam, the palm print, and the spear's gleam were all aimed at Lu Ming at the same time. However, Lu Ming pretended not to see it. The chaos realm covered his entire body, shrouding Lu Ming. Boom! 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 The 3 attacks landed on the chaos domain. The chaos domain shook violently but did not break. The expressions of the 3 people changed drastically. What kind of domain is this? How can it be so terrifying? The same thought flashed through the minds of the 3. The primal chaos domain was a legendary domain. Not many people could recognize it. Furthermore, they had never imagined that someone in the world could cultivate the primal chaos domain. The trio's attacks did not break the chaos domain, but Lu Ming's attack continued to crush it. Bang! The sword light of the youth in front of him finally couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. And NBSB, the primal chaos domain, exploded with terrifying fist energy. The young man's body shook violently, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying like a cannonball. Buzz! Then, Lu Ming dodged the other 3's attacks in a flash. His cold killing intent enveloped the other 3. At this moment, The sword pagoda not far away let out a buzzing sound. The door at the bottom level of the pagoda opened with a loud bang. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, two sword lights flew toward the sword pagoda from another direction at an extreme speed and rushed into the gate. The sword pagoda opened and two experts rushed in. Buzz! At this moment, Lu Ming's third blood meridian emerged and turned into a blood-red spear. Lu Ming grabbed it. Army obliteration! The blood-red spear swept out, containing the terrifying power of the prison-suppressing heavenly art and the primal chaos domain. Bang! 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 The three young men were sent flying like sandbags. They flew thousands of meters away and spat out blood as they looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. He was almost invincible among those of the same level. After sending the three young men flying, Lu Ming dashed toward the royal fruit. This time, the young men did not dare to stop him. They watched as Lu Ming picked the royal fruit and put it away. After picking the royal fruit, Lu Ming did not stop. He rushed to the sword pagoda and entered through the door on the ground floor. Who is this person? What a terrifying combat strength. I'm afraid it's comparable to the leaders of the 13 factions. It's indeed shocking. However, those two sword lights were the two leaders of the sect, Luo Xiang from the Life and Death Sword sect, and Wang Xiao from the Jiuxiao Sword sect. This is going to be interesting. Three leaders are fighting for an inheritance. This is going to be interesting. Let's go and watch. Following that, the young men also flew toward the sword pagoda. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the sword pagoda, he realized that the sword pagoda was filled with sharp sword qi. There were beams of sword qi that were slashing at him. It was the aftermath of the sword qi. In the sword pagoda, two people were fighting fiercely. Sword qi filled the sword pagoda. What powerful battle strength! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. One of the two young men was wearing an ordinary black robe and had a handsome face. There was a sword mark between his eyebrows, as if a divine sword would fly out at any time. The other person was wearing a cloud robe. He was tall and had a wild aura. The two of them were both swordsmen, and they both used long swords. Buzz! 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 In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Their long swords collided and sword qi raged. The cultivation of these two people was actually at the LV2 martial royal realm. They were not weaker than Hiyu, the leader of Dragon God Valley. Luo Xiang, this inheritance is mine. The young man in the cloud robe shouted coldly. Wang Xiao, inheritances can't be obtained with words. Luo Xiang coldly replied. At this moment, the two of them saw Lu Ming, but their eyes were cold and indifferent. They did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. You guys continue. Lu Ming smiled faintly. His figure soared into the sky, and he rushed to the top of the sword pagoda. There were no staircases in this sword pagoda. The center of the pagoda was empty, and it led all the way to the top. If one wanted to go up, they would have to rush up from the middle. Get lost! As Lu Ming charged forward, Wang Xiao's eyes turned cold, and a sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck out with his palm and dispersed the sword gleam. He did not stop and continued to move upward. You have some ability. Wang Xiao's eyes turned cold. He gave up on Luo Xiang and became one with his sword. He turned into a beam of sword light and shot up into the sky, stabbing towards Lu Ming. Get down! Lu Ming shouted coldly and took 9 consecutive steps with the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps. The 9 steps merged into one, and the sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. It was as if there were 9 dragons flying out from Lu Ming's feet, pouncing towards Wang Xiao's sword light. Chapter 1429. 1429. Snatching Wang Xiao's face fell, and his body fell to the ground. Whoosh! At this moment, Luo Xiang shot up into the sky and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming borrowed Wang Xiao's power to rise to the top. He twisted his body and stepped forward, moving tens of meters to the top of the landing zone. Immediately after, Luo Xiang also flew over. Buzz! After Luo Xiang, it was Wang Xiao's turn. He landed on the ground and looked at Lu Ming with a dark expression. As the leader of Jiuxiao Sword Sect's expedition into the secret realm, he had just been kicked down by Lu Ming an unknown person. This made his expression turn ugly. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze was attracted to the front. In front of him, there were 3 balls of light floating in the air. A book was floating in one of the balls of light. It seemed to be made of gold, but it wasn't. What was strange was that on the surface of the book, there was a figure dancing with a sword. It was a very mysterious sight. It was a martial technique, a sword technique. The second ball of light only had a sword. The sword was snow white, and with just a glance, one could feel a terrifying sword light slashing out. A holy weapon. This sword was definitely a powerful holy weapon. The third ball of light was much simpler. There were only 100 fist-sized stones. The heavenly Tao stone. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The 3 of them moved almost at the same time. Lu Ming pounced toward the heavenly Tao stone. To Lu Ming, the swordsmanship secret manual was not of much use to him. He was not a swordsman, and did not cultivate the sword. As for the saint weapon longsword, although it was precious, it wasn't of much use to him. If he were to take it out, he would only be selling it. These were not as attractive as the heavenly Tao stone. The heavenly Tao stone was the root of improving one's strength. As long as one had strength, would one need to worry about not having treasures? Lu Ming pounced toward the heavenly stone's light sphere. Luo Xiang pounced toward the art of swordplay, and Wang Xiao pounced toward his holy weapon sword. Bang! Lu Ming grabbed the ball of light. The ball of light shook but did not break. It really has a protective function. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Following that, the chaos realm covered Lu Ming's palm. He activated the prison-suppressing heaven technique, and struck the ball of light with his palm. Buzz! The ball of light shook violently. Although it didn't break, the light from the ball of light dimmed. Continue. Lu Ming launched a series of attacks. The chaos realm combined with the prison-suppressing heavenly technique was extremely powerful. The ball of light shook continuously and flickered. In less than 10 breaths, Lu Ming had struck more than 100 times. Finally, the ball of light collapsed with a poof, turning into light spots and disappearing. Lu Ming grabbed down and put more than 100 heavenly Tao stones into his storage ring. Lu Ming had a smile on his face. In total, he had obtained more than 200 heavenly Tao stones. The heavenly Tao stones were so precious that even Sage Realm experts would want to look for them. They would be envious if they saw them. Lu Ming's trip to the Great Emperor Secret Realm this time was not in vain. After putting away the heavenly Tao stone, he looked around and found that Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao still hadn't broken through the light. Sword light burst out from their hands and continuously slashed at the ball of light. The ball of light trembled and its light dimmed. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile as he pounced towards the ball of light Wang Xiao was in. He struck out with his palm, causing the ball of light to tremble violently. "What are you doing?" Wang Xiao roared in anger. Lu Ming sneered. He could not be bothered with him and struck out with his palm. "Brat, you dare to fight me for my saint weapon? You're looking for death." Wang Xiao hollered in rage, and the sword in his hand flashed as he slashed towards Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming kicked out. This kick was also a combination of the prison-suppressing heaven technique and the chaos domain. Wang Xiao's sword light was shattered, and his body was forced back 2 steps. Bang! Lu Ming struck the ball of light with his palm again. With a poof, the ball of light was destroyed. Lu Ming grabbed the holy weapon longsword and kept it in his storage ring. "Brat, hand over your saint weapon." Wang Xiao let out a furious roar as he pounced towards Lu Ming, his sword chi shooting towards Lu Ming like a rainbow. "You want a saint weapon? Let's see if you have the ability." Lu Ming sneered. Wang Xiao had attacked Lu Ming the moment he entered the room. Now that he had the chance to snatch a saint weapon, how could Lu Ming be polite? Lu Ming's palm was like a blade, slashing down continuously. Under Lu Ming's palm, Wang Xiao's sword radiance was destroyed one after another. Damn it! Wang Xiao was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. However, he was shocked to find that he could not do anything to Lu Ming at all. In fact, Lu Ming's attacks were stronger than his, but he was actually being suppressed by Lu Ming. Buzz! And NBSB whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hands, bringing with it his chaos domain. In an instant he sent out a dozen palm strikes, which were like a dozen mountains, pressing down on Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao raised his cultivation to the peak of the second level of the martial emperor realm, and a sword light burst forth as he tried to break out of the mountain. Buzz! Buzz! And MBSP whoosh! Sparks flew in all directions, and the sword chi was extinguished. Wang Xiao used all his strength and finally managed to break through the gap, rushing out of Lu Ming's attack range. He retreated far away, feeling the chi and blood in his body churning. He looked at Lu Ming with a serious expression. At this time, Luo Xiang also broke through the light ball and put away the kendo manual. Detestable. Wang Xiao was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. Originally, there were 3 of them, so there were exactly 3 treasures. But in the end, Lu Ming got 2, and he did not get a share. That was a holy weapon. If he could refine 1 or 2 of them, his combat power would definitely increase greatly. Unfortunately, it was in Lu Ming's hands now. He glared at Lu Ming viciously. What, you want to die? Lu Ming glanced at Wang Xiao with a murderous look in his eyes. Buzz! At this moment, not far in front of the 3 of them, a spot of light suddenly lit up in the space. The spot of light was resplendent and slowly, a small sword appeared there. The small sword was only the size of a palm, but it was bright and resplendent. The light was like tiny little swords, spreading in all directions. Legacy. The 3 men's hearts moved, and their eyes bloomed with a fiery light. Almost at the same time, the 3 of them moved and pounced toward the light sword. However, the next moment, the 3 of them changed their expressions and pushed forward with their palms. Then, the 3 of them retreated in unison. What a strong pressure! What a strong sword chi! Lu Ming's eyes were a little solemn. The moment he charged out, he felt a powerful sword chi emanating from the sword of light, as if it was going to tear him apart. If he had not blocked it in time, he would have been injured. Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao were probably the same. It seemed that it would not be easy to get this light sword. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming covered his entire body with the chaos domain and walked forward step by step. The chaotic realm rippled as it was attacked. Tiny sword chi, dense and endless, stabbed the chaotic realm. As for Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao, they also stepped forward. Of course, they were also attacked, and were doing their best to resist. The speed of the 3 of them became extremely slow. However, Lu Ming's chaos domain covered his entire body. Step by step, he walked forward determinedly. His speed was still faster than Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao. Very soon, Lu Ming was several meters ahead of Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao. Chapter 1430. 1430. The Sword Dao Inheritance. Lu Ming was leading by a few meters, causing Luo Xiang's eyes to light up. Wang Xiao, on the other hand, was furious. He gritted his teeth and charged forward. Buzz! 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 There was a whooshing sound, and 4 figures rushed up from the bottom of the sword pagoda. They were the 4 young men who had competed with Lu Ming for the royal fruit. It's an inheritance. The legacy of the sword pagodas. When they saw the light swords, their eyes flashed with greed, and they also stepped forward. But at the same time, they were also attacked by the sword chi, and their speed was slower than a snail. The power of the sword chi is getting stronger and stronger. Lu Ming's expression slowly turned serious. The further he went, the closer he was to the light sword. The pressure and the power of the sword chi became stronger and stronger. The ripples on the chaos domain also became more and more intense. Boom! Lu Ming used offense as a form of defense, and began to use the prison-suppressing heaven technique to break the sword chi. In this case it was indeed better. Lu Ming's speed suddenly increased. Seeing this, Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao also started to attack. Sword chi burst out from their hands, clashing with the sword chi that was flying towards them, causing a dense clashing sound to ring out. However, their speed was still not as fast as Lu Ming's. The lightsaber was not far away from them to begin with. In a short while, Lu Ming was already close to the lightsaber. He was less than a meter away from it. He could reach it with his hand. At this point, the power of the sword chi light had reached a shocking level. Detestable, no! Wang Xiao roared in his heart. Seeing that the legacy was about to be taken by Lu Ming, he was extremely unwilling. He tried his best to move forward, but it was impossible for him to get close to the light sword. Lu Ming did not hesitate. He covered his palm with the chaos domain and grabbed the light sword, successfully grabbing it. Buzz! Right at this moment, the light sword trembled slightly, and the light grew brighter. A terrifying sword chi burst out. Lu Ming's expression changed. He felt that the chaos domain on his palm could not withstand the pressure and was about to break. A terrifying sword chi burst out of Lu Ming's palm and headed straight for him. Bang! Lu Ming's body could not help but retreat after being hit by the sword chi. He slid along the ground for dozens of meters. He had failed. The lightsaber did not acknowledge him. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. He was not too surprised. The inheritance here was obviously a sword technique inheritance. He did not cultivate the sword, so it was normal for him to be rejected by the light sword. Previously, he had only wanted to give it a try. Even if he could not get the legacy, Lu Ming had a fruitful trip. The 3 royal fruits, and more than 100 heavenly Dao stones, were extremely useful to Lu Ming. Of course, there was also a holy battle sword, which was also very valuable. Ha ha ha. Seeing Lu Ming being pushed back by the lightsaber, Wang Xiao laughed in his heart and pushed forward with all his might. He and Luo Xiang approached the light sword almost at the same time. Luo Xiang, you want to compete with me? Dream on. A small squirrel appeared in Wang Xiao's hands. Sword rats. Luo Xiang's expression changed. Go attack him, Wang Xiao spoke, staring at Luo Xiang. Squeak. The squirrel cried out in fear. Wang Xiao, this place is filled with powerful sword chi. If you ask the sword mouse to attack me, you'll be killing it. Luo Xiang said. Hurry up and attack or I'll kill you right now. Wang Xiao couldn't be bothered with Luo Xiang's words and stared at the sword rat with killing intent. Squeak. The sword rat was so scared that its body trembled. It then nodded, and a look of sorrow flashed through its eyes. With a swish, it rushed towards Luo Xiang. At this moment, Luo Xiang was the same as Wang Xiao. He had to use all of his strength to block the sword chi, and couldn't even spare a hand to attack. Bang! The sword rat struck Luo Xiang's protective Zhen Yuan and domain, causing his body to shake and retreat. But the sword rat was also exposed to the endless sword chi. The sword rat wailed, and turned into ashes under the sword chi. Haha! I finally seized the initiative. Wang Xiao laughed as he reached out to grab the sword of light. The inheritance is mine. Wang Xiao grabbed the sword of light, his eyes shining with excitement. Of course, he could tell that Lu Ming was repelled by the lightsaber, because he was not a swordsman. Naturally, he could not be recognized by the lightsaber. However, he was a pure swordsman. He had been practicing swordsmanship since young, and was a famous genius in the Jiuxiao sword sect. How could he not be recognized by the light sword? However, the next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. The lightsaber burst forth with a violent force, and just like Lu Ming, Wang Xiao was sent flying. No, how could this be? Wang Xiao couldn't believe it, and he howled in rage. He had also been rejected by the lightsaber. How could this be? Sword cultivators are supposed to be brave, determined, decisive, persistent, sharp, and daring. But you're despicable and shameless. Wang Xiao, you're not worthy of a sword. Luo Xiang's indifferent voice sounded. Bang! Bang! Then Luo Xiang took a few steps forward and arrived in front of the light sword. Without any hesitation, he grabbed the light sword. When Luo Xiang grabbed the lightsaber, it was surprisingly quiet. The powerful sword chi disappeared without a trace, just like a docile pet. Luo Xiang has obtained the recognition of the lightsaber. A young man said. Impossible. The inheritance is mine. Wang Xiao couldn't accept this fact, and with a roar of anger, he pounced towards Luo Xiang. Buzz! The sword of light trembled, and a powerful sword chi burst forth, sending Wang Xiao flying. Then with a flash, the light sword entered the space between Luo Xiang's eyebrows and disappeared. Buzz! Luo Xiang directly jumped down from the sword pagoda and rushed out. At this moment, the sword pagoda began to shake. Let's go! Lu Ming jumped down from the sword pagoda and rushed out of the pagoda. The others followed suit one by one, including Wang Xiao. However, his face was extremely gloomy. Buzz! The sword pagoda trembled. Then a rainbow bridge broke through the sky and rushed into the boundless void, merging with the other two rainbow bridges. In the distance, a sword light flashed and flew into the distance. It was Luo Xiang. He had just received the inheritance and needed time to digest it. Luo Xiang, don't even think about occupying the sword doctrine inheritance. Wang Xiao's eyes flashed with a cold light as he turned into a beam of sword light, chasing after Luo Xiang. Lu Ming shook his head. Wang Xiao was a narrow-minded person. No wonder he couldn't get the sword Dao inheritance. Compared to Luo Xiang, he was far worse. Lu Ming could not be bothered with this matter and stepped out. Very soon, Lu Ming rushed past the area of the sword's tailplate and went back the way he came. Lu Ming was not very concerned about the legacy here. He had the inheritances of the 9 dragons and the Chaos Arch. The 9 dragons and the Chaos Arch were peak experts in the world. They were peak existences even among the great emperors. Lu Ming did not care about these small inheritances at all. Even if he obtained it, it would not be of much use to Lu Ming. Lu Ming wanted more treasures, such as the Heavenly Dao Stone, which was of great use to him. Not long after, Lu Ming found Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao. Lu Ming, how's the legacy? Qiu Yingying asked curiously. They had just seen the Rainbow Bridge and knew that the inheritance had already appeared. They were just curious about who had taken it. Chapter 1431, 1431 Emperor Cong's bedroom. Luo Xiang got it. Lu Ming said with a smile. Luo Xiang, that peerless genius from the life and death sword sect. Qiu Yingying's eyes moved. You know this person? Lu Ming said. Qiu Yingying nodded. My brother and I have been in the Yuan continent for 2 years. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. In these 2 years, besides cultivating, we have not been idle. We have investigated some of the major forces in the Cong region, and some outstanding geniuses. The Life and Death Sword sect is a very special existence among the 13 top sections. The other sects have many disciples, but the Life and Death Sword sect has very few. They are extremely strict when it comes to accepting disciples. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, the number of people from the Life and Death Sword sect who entered the Great Emperor's secret realm this time was the least. And this Luo Xiang is the most terrifying heaven's favorite in the Life and Death Sword sect. It's said that he started training with the sword at 6, reached the spiritual ocean tier at 7, and reached the limit of the Supreme Being at 9. Qiu Yingying said. He trained in the sword at the age of 6, and reached the limits of the autarch level at the age of 9. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. This kind of cultivation speed was simply too fast. It was simply unimaginable. Although this was the Yuan continent, it was still too terrifying. Lu Ming's cultivation speed was already very shocking after he obtained the 9 dragons bloodline. However, he had spent more than 10 years cultivating until now. Although Luo Xiang's talent isn't bad, he looks like he's already in his 20s. It's not that exaggerated. Lu Ming was puzzled. That's the scariest thing about Luo Xiang. It's said that he could have broken through to the Emperor realm long ago, but he's been suppressing it at the limit of the Supreme Realm. His purpose is to nurture his sword soul and temper his sword heart. He's been suppressing it for 15 years. Qiu Yingying said. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a hint of shock. In order to nurture his sword soul and temper his sword heart, he was actually willing to suppress himself to the same realm for 15 years. This kind of person was too terrifying. Now that Luo Xiang had made a breakthrough and obtained the inheritance of the sword doctrine, he would definitely rise up in the future and become an absolutely terrifying figure. Lu Ming secretly remembered Luo Xiang's name in his heart. Not to mention other things, just that kind of heart was worthy of respect. Lu Ming asked himself. He could not suppress himself for 15 years in one realm. However, everyone's path was different. Lu Ming had his own path. Other people's paths might not be suitable for him. The few of them chatted for a while before leaving. Following that, the entire mystic realm became even more lively. Everyone was searching for the remaining inheritance. Time passed day by day. In the secret realm, there was a sea of blood. A dragon's roar could be heard from within. Suddenly, a figure shot up into the sky and stood above the sea of blood with a shocking aura. He was the leader of the Dragon God Valley Hiyu. Buzz! A rainbow bridge rose from the blood sea and disappeared into the void. The fourth inheritance appeared. In a sea of flowers, an extremely beautiful woman stood in the middle. Her entire body was shining with resplendent light, and the light from the sea of flowers converged to form a rainbow bridge that shot into the void. The fifth legacy had appeared. There was also a rainbow bridge that rushed out from the desert. The sixth legacy. In an ancient temple, a young man was bathed in holy light. He only disappeared after a long time. After this person rushed out of the divine hall, there was also a rainbow bridge that broke into the sky. The seventh inheritance had appeared. Buzz! 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 One figure after another appeared beside the young man and bowed respectfully. Congratulations, Brother Sure. You've obtained the inheritance. All 7 inheritances have appeared. Emperor Tsong's chamber will soon appear. This time, Emperor Tsong's treasures will belong to my Tianshin sect. The young man spoke with a supreme might, like a divine spirit speaking. Emperor Tsong's treasure will definitely belong to my Tianshin sect. The other young men chimed in. At this moment, everyone in the secret realm was looking at the void. The 7 inheritances have all appeared. Emperor Tsong's bedroom is about to appear. On a mountain peak, Lu Ming, Xiao Ying, and Xiao Hao stood facing the wind, looking at the sky. During this period of time, they had been searching for inheritances, but unfortunately, their luck seemed to have run out. They had not found any inheritances. In the depths of the sky, 7 rainbow bridges rushed into the void from all directions and gathered together. The entire secret realm of the great emperor could see it. Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shaking roar came from the place where the rainbow bridges converged. Then the cry of an eagle resounded through the world. In the depths of the void, there seemed to be a behemoth that was about to break out of the void. Emperor Tsong's chamber is about to appear. Charge! I want to seize the initiative. I didn't get the 7 inheritances. The inheritance of Emperor Tsong is mine. One figure after another flew into the sky from all directions, rushing toward the place where the rainbow bridges converged. From below, the scene was extremely magnificent. Countless silhouettes were densely packed as they gathered in one place. It was a spectacular sight. Let's go up too, Lu Ming said. Then they rose into the air and flew to the sky. At this moment, another eagle's cry resounded through the sky. Boom! 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 The void shattered, and a giant creature slowly appeared in front of everyone. It was a goshawk, a huge goshawk. To be more precise, it was a building in the shape of an eagle. From a distance, it looked lifelike, and a vast aura pressed down on everyone's hearts. Was this Emperor Tsong's bedroom? Everyone's eyes lit up. Legend had it that Emperor Tsong was a goshawk that became the emperor. He was the supreme demon emperor of his generation. There's a lot fewer people, Xiao Ying said softly. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, when they entered the great emperor's secret realm, there were more than 300,000 people. But now, there were less than 200,000 people here. The others had almost all fallen. More than 100,000 of them had died. What a shocking number. The great emperor's secret realm had great opportunities, but it also came with great dangers. For example, at least 10,000 people had died to the sword-tail disc in the land of sword principal inheritance. Boom! 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 A moment later, the entire goshawk appeared in everyone's sight. It was huge, too huge. A goshawk covered the sky and the sun. The entire goshawk was black and shiny. He didn't know what material it was made of. Where's the entrance? Everyone was watching, but they couldn't see an entrance. The outside of the goshawk's body was smooth, so it was impossible for it to be the real bedroom. The real bedroom must be inside the goshawk. Gah! At this moment, the cry of a goshawk resounded through the world. Everyone saw that the goshawk's mouth had opened, revealing a pitch-black passage. Could this be the passageway to Emperor Tsong's bedroom? Everyone looked at each other. In the end, some of them gritted their teeth and rushed toward the goshawk's mouth. If this was really a passageway, then entering first would allow them to gain the upper hand. Chapter 1432. 1432 Chapter 1432 Killing Intent Charge. Charge. As soon as someone moved, the others could no longer hold back and rushed toward the goshawk's mouth. Buzz! 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 The crowd swarmed towards the goshawk's mouth. Lu Ming, Xiao Yingying, and Xiao Hao followed the crowd. The person at the front had already rushed into the fly's mouth, and there was no danger. The moment they saw that everything was fine, the people behind them charged forward even more frantically. Who knew if they would obtain some supreme treasure if they entered earlier? Everyone naturally went crazy. Who? As Lu Ming was flying, a terrifying palm print shot out from behind him. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. He did not even look at it. He turned his hand and struck out with his palm, clashing with the palm print behind him. Boom! The force was unrestrained. Lu Ming twisted his body and looked behind him. A young man in a white robe glanced at Lu Ming with a cold gaze, then sped forward. The people of the Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Obviously, this white-robed young man from the Heavenly God sect wanted to kill him. He had sneaked an attack on him from behind when he was not paying attention. Tianshan sect, thank you Ninjuan. Lu Ming said in a low voice, his voice cold. They continued to fly and soon, Lu Ming and the rest flew into the passage. The goshawk was huge, so the passage was also huge. It did not seem crowded at all when a large group of people flew in. Ah! Ah! At this moment, a shrill scream came from the front. What's going on? There's danger ahead. Someone exclaimed. And MBSB whoosh. At this moment, an ear-piercing sound came from the front, and it was getting closer. Whoosh. Whoosh. Suddenly, beams of black light shot out from the walls on both sides of the passage. Immediately, someone screamed as the black light pierced through his body and he died. Defend! Lu Ming threw a few consecutive punches and destroyed dozens of black rays of light. Lu Ming saw it clearly. This black light was not a physical entity, but it was very powerful and had a terrifying penetrative power. Many people circulated their vital essence to defend, but it was useless. They were penetrated by the black light. Those below the Emperor Realm withdraw. Those below the Emperor Realm withdraw. Someone shouted. Those below the Emperor level couldn't block the light at all, and would be shot to death. Screams rang out continuously as people were shot to death. In the passage, domains spread out. Those who had broken through to the Emperor Realm had to use their domain and true essence to protect themselves. They could barely block the attack of the black light. On Xiao Yingying's body, the feather clothing emitted a light that covered her entire body, blocking the surrounding light. Xiao Hao, on the other hand, had a golden bell floating above his head, casting down a light screen that easily blocked the light. As for Lu Ming, he was enveloped by the chaos domain, and the light could not touch him at all. The group didn't retreat and continued to fly forward. Along the way they saw many corpses. However, most of them were supremes, and only a few emperors were killed by them if they were not careful. However, as he continued to advance, the power of the black light also slowly became stronger. In the beginning, it shot out from the left and right sides, but behind it left, right, up, down, there was endless black light shooting out with astonishing power. Slowly, some of the sovereigns were unable to resist. This passage was extremely long. Everyone flew for 1,000 miles, and still had not reached the end. Damn it, I'm not willing to accept this. Someone roared because they couldn't hold on much longer. If they went any further they would die. He could only leave unwillingly. As he continued forward, it became more and more difficult to walk. On the other hand, Lu Ming, Xiao Yingying, and Xiao Hao had it easy. Xiao Yingying and Xiao Hao's treasures were saint weapons with amazing defensive power. Naturally, this attracted the attention of others. What a profound treasure! If I can obtain it, I will be able to enter Emperor Tsong's bedroom. Some people's eyes flashed with greed. Many people surrounded the three of them. How can you enjoy such a treasure? Give it to me. A young man with a cold look in his eyes threw a palm toward Xiao Hao. Buzz! The golden bell above Xiao Hao's head trembled, and an invisible ripple spread out, rushing towards the young man. The young man's face changed and he retreated. What a wondrous treasure! It must be a saint weapon. Hand it over. Kill. The other young man also stepped out and charged at Qiu Hao. There were also a few people who charged towards Qiu Ying. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. He strode forward and extended his hand to attack the few young men. Brat, it's good that I didn't come looking for you. You're such a busybody, go to hell. One of the young men snorted coldly and struck Lu Ming with his palm. However, Lu Ming threw a punch, and the violent fist force crushed over. The young man screamed and flew backward. His protective true energy and territory were shattered by Lu Ming's punch. His body was instantly pierced by the dense black light, and he died on the spot. Following that, Lu Ming threw a few consecutive punches, sending a few more young men flying. His vital essence and territory were penetrated by Lu Ming, and they all died under the black light. The remaining young men's expressions changed drastically. Lu Ming's combat strength was too strong. He completely crushed them. At that moment, an extremely sharp force attacked Lu Ming from behind. Lu Ming knew that it was sword chi the moment he heard it. It was extremely sharp, and the person who attacked must be shockingly powerful. Buzz! He activated the wind elemental technique. At the critical moment, Lu Ming's figure shifted 1 meter to the side and avoided the sword. You again! Lu Ming's killing intent burst forth when he saw the person who had launched the sneak attack. This person was the white-robed young man from the Heavenly God sect, who had sneaked an attack on Lu Ming outside the passage. You're lucky. The white-robed young man's attack had failed, so he retreated and wanted to retreat. You've attacked me time and time again, and now you want to leave? Have you asked for my permission? Lu Ming said coldly. The aura on his body surged. He took a step forward and rushed toward the white-robed young man at top speed. The black light did not pose much of a threat to Lu Ming. The young man in white's expression changed when he saw Lu Ming charging at him. He dashed forward at top speed, but his speed was no match for Lu Ming's. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming was already close to him. Brat, you dare to attack me? I'm an elder of the Heavenly God sects. Seeing that he could not escape, the white-robed young man turned around and shouted at Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming charged at the other party. This person was really naive. He had tried to ambush Lu Ming time and time again, trying to kill Lu Ming. Now he actually brought up his backer to threaten Lu Ming. Wasn't he stupid? The white-robed young man's words were swallowed back by Lu Ming's punch. He could only try his best to resist. Sword lights bloomed from his hands with astonishing power. This person should have an innate spirit body, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the LV1 martial royal realm. His combat strength was not bad, but he was no match for Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming's punch shattered all the sword gleams. The remaining force of the punch landed on the white-robed young man's protective true energy and territory. The white-robed young man was sent flying and crashed into the wall. He was almost killed by the black light. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.